Well, as Bruce Springsteen would say, it has been, in fact, a long time coming. I have wanted this gentleman across from me on this show for quite some time. The second that he finally responded, I think he saw my follower count went to a point where he thought I was worth his time. The studio was in active demolition. We are still having technical difficulties with the corner cameras. Ben, I think, has been doing something nefarious on the sideline to sabotage this show. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's an angry Michigan fan that has not been a fan of my tweets recently. But you are here finally in the flesh.
Here we go.
This is Justin Rose, a 4-time Emmy Award winner. You look great in those pictures you're holding up, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're one of the few people you rejected a TV contract extension, which is unheard of. People are doing like sins against God. People are hacking up family members and burying them somewhere in their house to get those gigs. And you were actually in one, requested to stay, and said, I'm good, which is rare. So maybe that's like your biggest point of interest for me, frankly. But most importantly, a fellow Spartan during a very key time. Extremely rare bye week leading to Michigan
double
week.
Bye week.
Well,
for
yeah,
both of them. Both on the bye week. So we get to hear just all sorts of nonsense.
And
for 13 days.
It's living up to that because these two fan bases are bored as fuck with the bye week.
Hey, don't turn your Michigan M upside down to make it look like a W.
I saw that today for a minute.
Michigan
and
fans.
I don't know who's making fun of whom. I don't know if
I know, right?
Did we come up with that? Or are they making fun of us, making fun of them?
Already giving up the W. Oh.
I can't even figure it out. But so we're coming up on that. This is going to be the first of, I don't know, at least 3 shows. We're talking to a couple members of that Michigan team right now. Those are a harder sell. But
I can imagine.
It's looking 30-70. It's about 98-2 in our favor for a Michigan State iteration. We're looking at Jalen Watts Jackson joining us just as he did last year, this time with Chris Castellani from Barstool Sports.
Okay.
The Michigan perspective versus the Michigan State. So this will be the first of 3 or 4. This is a lot of time to fill before this game, and I'm thankful that if it was going to happen, it was this year and not last year. Last year with the 2 teams undefeated, it was a lot more tension.
Yeah.
Feels more like house money to me. Am I crazy to think that way?
Oh, no, absolutely. I was having this conversation earlier today, though, as I was kind of telling a buddy of mine that I was going to be on the show. I don't like where we are this year with like Michigan State being down and Michigan being undefeated. I loved last year. Give me that top 10 matchup, top 15 matchup every single time these 2 teams play into perpetuity from now on. That's what I would rather have because I'm scared, quite frankly, that this is going to relegate back into, every once in a while Michigan State will play above their britches and knock down Michigan. Like, no. I grew up that way. Those days are not returning as far as I'm caring to see. Yeah, I don't want that. So, State's having a crap year. They stink. They got a nice feel-good victory, in double overtime when Mel Tucker finally showed that maybe he isn't a great coach. No, I won't because that was awful.
We'll get to that.
And listening to it on the radio broadcast was even worse because I had no idea what was going on. But my goodness gracious, that was scary. So it's going to be one of those things where it's like, all right, we'll get into it more and more depth, but can Michigan State rise to the occasion? Can Mel Tucker own Harbaugh one more time? He's going to win a game at some point. Michigan State's not going to beat Michigan every single time from now on, but it's also who's got more pressure on him to win this game? Well, at this point now, it's 100% Harbaugh in Michigan.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
And I am fully transparent, and I was joking with myself about it, this is a just beat Michigan season. That sucks. It's embarrassing. But what the fuck else do we have? You have to know your lot in life, and that's the thing. It's like Michigan fans when they were looking at literal 3-win teams, 5-win teams, with Rich Rod, they were still running their mouth. It's have to, I'm not going, during a bad season, I'm at least going to own, we suck. It sure would be nice to beat the rival and maybe win 6 games so you get that extra month of bowl practices. Just own it. I'm not going to pretend I'm above wanting petty things.
The difference, look, I've had my entire life, I grew up in this rivalry, right? My grandpa went to Michigan Agricultural College, I mean, he lived in like this little tiny attic shack. If you go down Harrison, you'll know exactly where it is. Or on Abbott, he lived above like that law firm across from the Irish pub or whatever.
I know exactly
Yeah,
what you're talking
he
about.
lived in that little tiny little window back in like the 40s. My parents met there. My sister went there. My uncle. I mean, I grew up at this. I know this rivalry and I know these fan bases like the back of my hand. And I can tell you the main difference between the two is Michigan State fans are realistic and Michigan fans are not. That's the end of the story. I mean, it's constantly this whole, we're the mighty Michigan Wolverines. And it's like, yeah, but when you stink, can you say you stink? No, because we're Michigan. And that's what Michigan does. And it's like, guys, no, it's okay. It's okay. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to win a national championship every year or one since a split one in 1997. But hey, who's counting, right? Michigan State hasn't won one since 1966. And I can say that with pride because they haven't really been close.
It's funny that now
it's real.
It's funny, like now, winning the Big Ten and getting absolutely demolished in the playoff is like a great thing to puff your chest about. Because I was reliably informed that we should be embarrassed that we humiliated the Big Ten. Even Dave Portnoy, right before the Georgia game, said that they were going to do right by the whole state of Michigan for the embarrassment we served up 6 years prior.
Sure.
And it's like now all of a sudden, and by the way, I'll mention the year that we did go to the college football playoff, we won the Michigan game that year in famous fashion. We didn't have to, like, I love this whole, you can have Paul Bunyan. We got the Big Ten title. Yeah, well, we had both when we did it.
Right.
You know, so it's like, and I was told having both wasn't all that impressive. So
but Justin, you're making the mistake. You're talking about the history.
Oh, right.
You can't talk about anything but like, right now.
Yeah. Well, now.
Well, yeah. But up until a certain point, it was all about the history.
Right.
You know what I mean? Again, it's like there are very smart Michigan fans out there, and like I've had a ton of great interactions with a lot of them, and like I love that's the fun thing about the rivalry week. That's why I hate that it's weeks. And that's why like I know I'm gonna get a ton of stuff for things we're gonna talk about in the show, but like. It's fun for the week that it is, and I love that the rivalry is like it's so healthy right now. I mean, it's unhealthy healthy. It's like eating too much of that sundae, and you're like, oh, let me add a little hot fudge, and just throw a little caramel on there. Sprinkles are for winners. All right, get some of those. You don't get any. Nuts, yeah. And then you just keep building up, and then you eat it, and you're like, wow, this is so good. And then at the end, you're like, I'm so fat, and I feel like terrible.
Were you at the game last year?
I was not. Last year was the first year I got to sit in a bar and drink and watch a Michigan State game without covering it in 15 years.
So I can't speak for the bar experience. I can speak for having been there. I don't think anybody had fun on either side until the end. Like, dude, you enjoyed individual plays,
right.
But the general mood of that stadium on both fan bases was not like happy. No one was like, "Oh, we're here at the game." It was like you're watching the verdict, and like your firstborn son is on trial, and there's a real question if he's going to be acquitted or not.
It's
like,
so true.
That's what it felt like, and that's why I agree with you that the rivalry in that sense is healthy, where both fan bases care. Because I'm only a couple years younger than you, even though you look younger. The Michigan State mentality for years, and I can say it. It's like you can make, I'm Greek. I can make fun of Greek people. I'm Spartan. I can make fun of Spartans. Like our mentality really was kind of little brotherish for a while, and I don't know how unfair that criticism was. It was, thank God, that was expressed by Mike Hart. It was the best thing they ever did for us.
Right.
But we did have elements of that for a while, and that is gone even in our down years. We don't really have this mentality of I don't give a shit about anything, just beat Michigan.
Right.
I'm jokingly kind of embracing that for 1 year, but that's where the rivalry is better, where not just in any individual year, but the overall health of both programs, I would argue, is good.
100%.
The funding is there.
Funding is there. The coaching is there. The fan support is there. I mean, there's been years, like way back pre-D'Antonio times, where there wasn't that fanfare. And like we're seeing it right now is like I watch a Michigan State game against a homecoming in Wisconsin. Of course, they welcome to East Lansing, and it's like that whole upper right student section in the upper deck empty, and you're like, well, fanfare's not there again, as opposed to opening weekend, place is chock full, white out, like, so it's like Michigan State still, but Michigan does that too. I mean, I've been to the Big House a bunch of times over my time covering that team, where it's like, student section didn't really come in today, and it could be for a big game. It is what it is, right? So you're not going to sit here and, like, I think we get like so massaged into this idea that if you don't have every single seat taken, It's not just that doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for the fan base. Like they don't care about the team. It's like, what are you talking about? People have options. People tailgating. I remember tailgates where I would sell my ticket literally walking into the stadium. So I'd be like, hey, I'll give you $40 and 3 beers. I'd be like, all right, here you go. Like, see ya.
And the Wisconsin thing, I mean, granted it's homecoming and Wisconsin's a good brand, but at the end of the day, it was 2 mediocre to bad teams.
Yeah.
And you had one pocket of the upper bowl in the corner that was not full, but other than that, that place was jacked full.
Yeah.
I mean, for 2 bad teams on like a, kind of a cold day, and they showed up.
Yeah.
I know it's homecoming, but plenty of schools around the country have half-empty stadiums even on homecoming. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that Tom always says it, and I think he says it best. We'll get fat and sassy. Michigan State, guys are a little fat and sassy. You're kind of becoming who you don't want to be. And I mean that with all due respect. Michigan fans, you've been this way forever. That's why I say that. Like you're all high on the hog. You're always like, oh, we're leaders in the best, and we're winning this program in school, in NCAA. Like, that's great. Like, you can beat your chest to that until, you stop breathing. I don't care. My point is, Michigan State fans, be careful. Because we've seen, we know what not to be. And all of a sudden, we kind of got there. We kind of back down to earth a little bit, right? The D'Antonio final years really made me go, hang on a second here, not all that glitters is always gold, right? Like, we thought we were never going to go back down. And it's like Michigan fans, even during those years, the Rich Rod and the Brady Hoke years, they thought we're never going to go back. Yeah, you did. You were selling Cokes and getting free tickets, guys. Y'all conveniently forget that happened. It did. It happened. You can't get away from that. Like, same thing with Michigan State. So it's like, it's always this, especially when it comes to this rivalry week, everyone wants to be like, us. We're the best. It's like, but are you? And that's where it's like, we're going to get into like the talk of like this upcoming game and who I think is going to win and what the point spread should be and all this different stuff. And it's like, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real about the whole thing with it. Because quite frankly, what else? Why are you trying to convince yourself or people around you otherwise? Just call it what it is. I mean, that's the one thing about fans that I've just learned over the years is like, it's like politics. Like, you're so stuck in your ways and it's like, you won't see the other side. And it's like, but why?
The rent-free thing that both sides do. Like, stop pretending that you don't care about your rival. We hate each other. It's okay. That is not to be biased. It's a little bit more of a Michigan thing. Oh, we don't, like, they pretend to care less. But we do have our fans that are just like, we pretend like, we don't think about them. I say embrace it. Let's talk about, I keep wanting to say this weekend, but 2 weekends from now. But the next game, 10/29, which feels like it's like 73 days from now. It just feels like it's going to come up fast. We've been told essentially that this is a fait accompli. This is Michigan State at best taking a shot in the dark. Maybe they have a 1 in 50 chance. And this is kind of a foregone conclusion. Barely even worth showing up. That's what I'm hearing. The perception is this is hogs to the slaughter. We're wasting our time even playing. And I want to set this up with a demonstrable example. Ben cut up some stuff for us. We're going to play that. This is, I think, a representative example of what's out there, what I'm hearing. I did not have to cherry pick for this to be what we're producing. So, Ben, let's play that to get some perspective.
This team's ready. They got 2 weeks to prepare for Michigan State, but we know this Michigan State team. They always bring it. This is their Super Bowl.
It is. And you wonder if they've been sitting out some of their injured guys, because, I mean, what difference does it make at this point? Their season is wrecked. So their season is Michigan anyway. But, I mean, you come into it thinking it's more than that right now. It's only Michigan, so I wouldn't be surprised they're holding guys like Slade out just to get ready for Michigan. Now, both coaches are stealing from their universities. Mel Tucker's stealing from his university, too. I'm not mad at them. Great agents, right? Great hustle if you can get it. I need that kind of work. Get paid to get your ass whooped. I mean, I want that job.
I'm also wearing green today for another reason.
Color of money?
Wearing green today because Michigan's going to take their time on their bye week, come back, and show Michigan State what it's all about. Oh, boy. It's going to be ugly. If I'm a Spartan fan right now, I am taking cover. Maybe you should take 2 weeks off. Come back the Sunday after that game. It's coming, and it won't stop. It's going to rain. It's going to be a very hard rain in Ann Arbor that day, even if it's one of those 50-degree fall Saturdays with the sun shining down with a maze orb and a blue sky. It's going to be great. Oh, I can't wait for it. I might not sleep between now and then.
I hope you do.
2 weeks?
Last year was the Mel Tucker parade. It was the Mel Tucker parade. Oh, let's sign him to a long-term deal and pay him all that money because he's fixed Michigan State football. I might have to get off of caffeine for the next 2 weeks just to make sure I can sleep at night.
NyQuil will help you get your Z's.
Oh, I can't wait.
And the funny thing is,
boy,
we had to shorten that clip. I mean, there was more of that, and that is a representative example of what they're saying. I had a list of, I think it was 8 or 9 different links, and I'm like, I can't have Ben play a 12-minute video.
Yeah,
I had to
right?
pick and choose. But, like, that is a non-cherry-picked example of their mentality on that side. It's like, not only is the outcome foregone, the spread, the disparity on the scoreboard is foregone. It's not. They're not even worried that they might have a second thought come the third quarter. They're ready. They're ready for this thing to be over 10 minutes into the game. So where do you land on this? Like, what's your position on this?
Okay, so I think that they're like Rich Eisen. Like, I love Rich. I really do. I think he's fantastic. I love his show. Huge fan. I know he's watching right now live for sure. But like, he's thinking that this is going to be 52-3. Remember 52-3?
Yep.
I remember 52-3 because that was the last time I ever was like, Jesus, I can't watch this again. I can't watch Michigan just rub Michigan State. We have not seen a 52-3 quite like that 52-3 since 52-3, right? But it's like, I remember in it was either 2016, that was the 3-9 year, right? Or was that 2019?
16 was 3-9 because it was after
Yes.
the playoff team.
So 16, I remember on the Sports Cave saying Michigan was going to win by like 4. I thought it was. I was on that side from like for the Michigan State standpoint, like they are going to get absolutely hammered, absolutely wrecked. This isn't even going to be close, and it was. They lost,
Yeah,
of course, but like it wasn't this like. I look at this year and like, you know, it's funny that Rich is saying that because good, give him more material. Like Michigan, have you not learned to just shut up? Shut up and play the game. If they said less, they'd win more. I truly believe that Michigan would have won probably at least 2 or 3 more of the games over the last 6-7 years if they just would have shut up.
I agree.
Don't talk. Leave it alone. Just be like, yep, next game. Like, tell your players when they go out, don't say anything. There's already one guy that's going out there. I think the quote was, who's that? Number 9? I forget his name. He ran on us, but I don't remember his name. Dude, Kenneth Walker scored 5 tutties on your defense last year. You remember his name damn well, and you're just sitting there going, well, I don't really know what his name was. Number 9, yeah, good ball player. He's in the league now. You're not. You're a 5th-year senior at Michigan, bro, and you were a part of that defense that got hammered by Kenneth Walker III. So don't sit here and be like pretend like you don't know his name.
It's like Joe Milton, you know. Wasn't on my radar with the guy who intercepted him. He said that after the loss.
I mean, it's
like
just,
after they lost.
Just say less.
Yeah.
Just say less, and you'll win more. So it's like I look at it from this perspective. I truly believe when the spread comes out, it's going to be probably somewhere in the ballpark of 18 and 19 points.
You think it's that high?
I think it's that high because I think there'll be enough.
Like 14, 15.
I think it'll be enough money on Michigan to cover that spread's going to continue to go up. So I think you're probably right. Opening line, 2 touchdowns. But I think because the money's going to get hammered, that line's going to creep up towards 17, 18, 19, 19. I take Michigan State covering that.
So you think it's going to be close-ish? A not-embarrassing outcome, worst case.
Correct. Now, you got to go back to the Penn State game. I think Penn State is the biggest fraud in college football. Like, they constantly... Now, they're Michigan without all the talk. You don't hear a lot of Penn State talk, right? Like, they always think they're great, and their recruiting classes are nice, and James Franklin seemingly, says the right things, plays the right players. They just never win any big games. Like, ugh.
They're kind of like Harbaugh before last year, where it's like 9 and 10 wins every year, 2 and 17 in their biggest 19 games.
Exactly.
Like,
and the night games against Ohio State, 0 forever.
Yeah,
I mean, they'll never stop playing them at night. But it's like Penn State was bad on Saturday. Like, I tweeted out, I think my tweet was Penn State looks like so uncompetitive. And like a bunch of Michigan fans getting up in my mentions, they're like, well, Michigan's playing great. And I'm like, that's a part of it. But Michigan or Penn State literally looks like they don't even want to be out there. Like, there's a difference between getting your ass kicked and being competitive. And we've seen that with Michigan State over the years in this game. And then getting your ass kicked and being uncompetitive, which was Penn State on Saturday against Michigan. You don't let a team run for 400 plus yards on you if you're being competitive.
No, and they have
come on.
They have NFL players on their defense.
Yes.
They have a bunch of 4 and 5 star.
Don't sit here and say
Michigan.
Michigan was just executing at such a high level that the Chicago Bears couldn't stop them.
It's like, shut up. That's not how this works. The point is Michigan State will give their best effort, as they do every year. Mel Tucker and Mark D'Antonio, off of Mark D'Antonio, has made this ingrained in the DNA of these players that regardless if you have one leg chopped off and one arm tied behind your back, you're going to give them hell for 60 minutes. Michigan is now still kind of like, you're not our real rival. Like, and it's asinine. It's like, match the intensity when the intensity is there. If Iowa and Michigan State started this rivalry, like, and we kind of had it there in the Big Ten championship time, and like those games got really, really good, and Iowa started to kind of emerge as like a pseudo rival because the intensity matched the intensity. And even though Iowa and Michigan State have some lavish background of hatred and how Iowa kept Michigan State out of the Big Ten, like all this crap that people always like to drum up this time of year, it was a great rivalry during the time. Wisconsin, when Russell Wilson was there in the first Big Ten championship game, and like the whole that Wisconsin-Michigan State rivalry was great because the intensity matched the intensity. I am still waiting, and maybe last year was the first time the intensity kind of matched the intensity. Like two teams that were undefeated.
I agree.
The intensity was so high on both sides. You're saying as a fan, no one enjoyed it in the stands. No one enjoyed it at the bar either because we were all just like pacing around. Like every snap, there was a timeout. We were damn Geico commercial
Nothing
again.
about that was fun.
No,
nothing.
It was miserable.
Until the very end.
It was miserable until the jubilation at the end of the game when the team that I wanted to win won. And total despair for the team that lost on the other side.
Yep.
And it can happen. I hope that, like I said, Michigan has to match the intensity of Michigan State. And like, I believe that they will. This year is the first time that they will. And if they don't,
I have said
that is going to be horrible.
This would be the second in my lifetime, and I really thought this through. In my lifetime, or at least since 2000, this would be the second funniest win in the moment in this rivalry. 2020, in hindsight, both teams were bad.
Yeah.
But you have to remember that day, Michigan was into the 20s as a favorite. They had just demolished a Minnesota team that at the time was ranked and we thought was pretty good. Joe Milton looked like Cam Newton, and people were saying as much. And we got embarrassed by Rutgers in the first game.
5 fumbles or 5 turnovers, something like that?
I think, wasn't it like 6 or 7? It was not 5. It was more than 5. We had members of the media kind of making up race hoaxes about the fan base. I mean, things were in shambles for both real reasons and conjured up reasons by fake people like Braylon Edwards. And Michigan looked like they were a legitimate national title contender. Joel Klatt went on Cowherd's show and declared this the best Harbaugh team he's seen yet.
And then they get
punked. And they were in Vegas. I think they're the second or third favorite odds to win the whole thing going into that game. So it's easy to look back and say, oh, Michigan was bad that year. But I'm saying that day, like going to bed that night, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like that, and it was there, empty stadium or not, it was there. This would be second though.
I should probably get this picture, and maybe we can like tweet it out like after the fact or whatever. But like,
maybe like Kanye West thing, like taking a picture on stage and tweeting it.
It's a picture of me at the Big House at the game you're talking about, the game that they played in Ann Arbor.
And you were one of the 6 people there.
I was one of the 6 people there. And if I can, I don't know how quickly I can get to it, but my point is I'm like wearing like a winter hat, and I'm wearing my like Michigan like shooting badge, and I'm hanging out with a bunch of cardboard cutouts in the first row. I mean, I literally was walking around the Big House. Like there was a splattering of Michigan State family and a splattering of Michigan family. And that was kind of it. And it was the most surreal thing because I'm just watching Rocky Lombardi just chuck these bombs down the Ricky White unguarded on the sideline. And I'm like, here I am, like, again, shooting the game on my camera. And I'm shooting it. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And then I would like put the camera down. I'd look around for someone to talk to. And there's nobody there. And I'm like pissed because I'm like, dude, what is happening? Like, I mean, I was in the corner. Like, at one point, I look around, and it was like the third touchdown that Ricky White scored, and I go, what is happening? And, of course, the cardboard cutouts aren't going to say anything back to me. But I just remember it being, like, the most surreal experience of Michigan State is kicking Michigan's ass in their stadium in front of, like, 30 people, and it's like, it was laughable. Like, just the whole spectacle, right? I'm in a 110, 20,000 person venue by myself with cardboard cutouts as Michigan State is walloping Michigan. I mean,
that's the thing.
It was
nothing
wild
fluky about it. They were up double digits late. Michigan scored the prevent defense touchdown, and the funniest thing was the fourth down going for it and just running it up the gut to ice the game.
I mean,
how disrespectful was that?
I mean, and I remember like going and finding Ricky White's dad like in the stands and like interviewing because I'm like, hey, who's Ricky White? Like, who's this guy? And I think I saw a tweet earlier today from somebody who was basically like, who are the two players, Kenneth Walker and Ricky White, just like came out of nowhere. One like had a huge impact on the Michigan rivalry and like peace. Like, see ya, drop the mic. Like, who's it going to be this year?
There's certain guys that have that, like you saw two guys wear the hat, Damian Terry and Tyler O'Connor in Columbus, where it's like you have this one moment, and I would even throw Rocky Lombardi on that list for the very game we're talking about. Like, there's certain guys that just have one game, look, someone like Jalen Watts-Jackson, one play, and you're a hero forever. I mean, Javon Ringer is one of the best players we've ever had. He's a beloved figure. Jalen Watts-Jackson is not buying a beer ever. Javon Ringer may have to. It's interesting, and that just speaks to these rivalry games and the opportunity present to certify yourself as a legend. I mean, you talked about Twitter and some of this banter. I'm the one Michigan State fan, maybe there's someone else out there. I haven't found him yet, that actually likes Scott Bell. I think he's kind of funny. Like, if you take Scott Bell, the Michigan, probably biggest Michigan Twitter account, I would argue, if you take him literally and seriously and you take this thing like he's talking about your sister or something, you're not going to like Scott Bell. If you take it as like he's kind of like your jackass friend that's just fucking with you, he's actually pretty funny. But this is Scott Bell's take on this game, which is very much in line with some of the video clips we showed. Ben, let's get Scott Bell's perspective.
Oh, yes.
It's official. Michigan and Michigan State will play under the lights on October 29th. Even though there are more lax standards for what can be shown on TV during prime time, it's still highly advisable to not let children under the age of 18 stay up and watch. It's going to be a snuff film. So that's piggybacking the entire point about where their fan base is. There is no apprehension, no fear, no concern whatsoever. And I just, the last time they were this confident was that 2020 game. And it's almost somehow more. And I would think, as bad as this year has gone for Michigan State in so many ways, when you're 0-2 against Tucker and you saw what happened in 2020, now granted, they've established themselves as a better Michigan team. That's a fair distinction.
Yeah, 100%.
But how have you not learned every single time?
Because, Justin, it is ingrained in the very being of Michigan athletics.
To their own detriment, though.
That's what
like
I've been
saying. If
saying.
you're a paid advisor, if you're paid to help them.
If Michigan would hire me to help them recreate this image of who they are and what they are, they would be so much better off. They're so unlikable because of that stuff.
It's not just Michigan State, by the way. They are a hated national.
100%.
Even that clown Braylon Edwards was saying it this week, because I get sent more clips from that, him and Ermani. People, I'm like this like unpaid person that just hit them over the head with a club. But what I was sent today was, Braylon saying everyone hates them. Like that was the person was saying I should clobber Braylon for saying this. And I was like, so one thing Braylon's ever said I agree with. It's like, everyone does hate you.
Michigan is a national brand, and it's one of those things that everyone likes to point at and laugh. It's like Notre Dame. When Notre Dame loses, everyone goes, ha! It's like that Bart Simpson guy. Who's the bully?
Nelson Muntz.
Yeah. Like,
It's true.
It's true. And it's the same thing when, like, Tennessee, who's like, or when Texas, we're back. And it's like, then you lose, like, another 100 games.
But here's the difference, though. They say that they're hated because they're so great. It's not like, people have the signs at game day, we want Bama, and people talk about them, and they love seeing them lose. I've never got the sense that people, like, hate Alabama. It's just you want to take down the big dog.
Right.
There's, like, contempt for Michigan. And,
Yes.
And Braylon said
And
that.
it's because of this false perception of reality.
Yeah.
The leaders and the best. It's ingrained in their own fight song. It is something that they believe deep down inside. That's why it's like I've tried to have constructive conversations with Michigan alumni and Michigan fans and Michigan media people, and they just won't have it. They cannot say Michigan State is better than they are when they are. And they can't advise because it's like Michigan's always better. And if you can just zoom out a little bit, zoom out, and understand that Michigan State is no longer taking your crap, and they're going to bring it with the intensity of 1,000 Spartans, rah, 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 whatever. You got to match that intensity. Until they actually do that on the football field, it's going to and I'm not saying Michigan State's going to win, but I'm saying if you don't match that intensity, you're going to get clowned more often than not.
And they usually have more NFL players and more highly decorated recruits. It's just a fact. I'm sorry. I'm the Spartan saying this. They usually have an edge in talent. Just number of guys in the NFL.
If Michigan doesn't run for 250 yards on next Saturday, and throw for 300 plus yards and have over 550 yards of total offense, I will be flabbergasted.
They mailed it in to some degree, is what you're saying.
I think I can see what these guys are saying. Like Bell's tweet doesn't really hurt my feelings. It could absolutely be a 52-3 type of scenario. I don't think it will because I think Michigan State won't allow that to happen. But I can absolutely see a scenario where the floodgates open. I mean, Jalen Reed gets.
You had it right the first time. It might be the floodgates.
I mean, worst case scenario, Peyton Thorne gets hurt by a first quarter sack, and then Reed re-injures his back, and forget it. Like you get run all over. I mean, you already got a beat up secondary and a beat up front seven. Like, I mean, a lot of things are going to have to go right. But I look back at that, like even that game that Michigan won 21-7 a couple of years ago in Spartan Stadium. I think it was 2019. No, it was the one where Peoples-Jones did the famous, Paul Bunyan pose. It was like a 7-7 game.
Yeah.
Michigan State came out, scored on their first drive, stopped Michigan, kept them out of the end zone. And then they kind of broke it with the Peoples-Jones thing. But like that was a year that was like Michigan was heavily favored again.
Yeah.
And it was a 14-point game, and it was a one-possession game until late in that game. It's that is the recipe that Michigan State wants to have happen. They want to force J.J. McCarthy to actually throw the ball downfield, and that could be a double-edged sword. Because here's the one thing. We haven't seen him do it yet to any sort of consistency over a long period of time. Michigan has never played from behind. Like, they haven't. And they haven't played from behind once this year. Did they ever fall behind? They tied with Penn State. They've never been behind this year.
They haven't been trailing in the fourth quarter.
They haven't been trailing in the second half.
No, I don't think so.
Like, where's the adversity? Like, adversity is
Indiana
real.
Had a lead, like in the second quarter or something.
Yeah, adversity is a real thing. I don't think they ever really actually felt like, oh no, Indiana, like
No.
And I think that, but Michigan State is not Indiana. They're not. I'm not saying Michigan State is like some world beater, but my point is that the mentality of like these guys are playing their asses off. It's our rival. We can't lose. All of a sudden, that pressure starts to mount a little bit more. It's like if Michigan State can find a way to get in a lead, get a couple of things happen. Now, on the road, you're not going to get a lot of calls. It's going to be loud in the quiet house, the whole thing. I see this game being a lot closer, at least in theory, every single year. Because I have been wrong more often than not. When I've said multiple times on the record, on that sports show I had, Michigan is going to win this game by a ton. And every time I said that, it was like a one-possession game at some point in that game in the second half.
Normally, the first quarter of a game isn't not that it's unimportant. It's not the end-all, be-all. Last year, the entire first half wasn't the end-all, be-all. This is one of those years where the first quarter seems really important.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing in Columbus in 2015 when it's announced Connor Cook's out. Michigan State, before that announcement, was already like a 13-point dog. It shot up to 18.5. They had to get through that first quarter in Columbus, tied, field goal lead, down 3, not even down 7. I want you down 3 or less. This feels like one of those games where if Michigan gets rolling early, this could get ugly.
Absolutely.
If you get into the second quarter with like a 13-10 lead, or you're up 10-7 and they're on your 6 and they're about to score, but you're only down 3, whatever, you're down 3 or 4 points, and you're just in it, then I think you have a game, and I think Michigan State will stay with them the whole way. I think the first quarter will really end up mattering. If Michigan State doesn't fall behind 2 scores in the first quarter, or the first 20 minutes, you want to go early second, I think it's going to be close the whole way.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
It just feels that way.
Okay, so you want the ball to start, or do you want to play defense first?
Oh, you got to take the ball. You got to take the ball because your weakness, I don't care how inept the offense is looked at in points. You have flat out more playmakers on offense. You 100%. Have Reed, you have Coleman, you have a
win the
quarterback
toss.
that set the record. You have to do the Ricky White bomb.
Yeah.
You have to try to go up 7-0 right away.
Oh, absolutely.
And normally I'm a kick guy. Not in this game and not with this
Michigan
game.
State don't have Pat Narduzzi running the defense right
Doesn't
now.
Harbaugh always defer too? Or maybe I'm making it up. I feel like he's one of those.
He's a big defer guy.
I feel like we'll get the ball if we want the ball. Like either they'll give it to us or we'll take it.
I can see Harbaugh maybe flipping the script if they win it and taking the ball and saying, you know what, we're going to run this.
Should.
We're going to run this down your throat, and we're going to beat you up for about 6 minutes before, or we're going to break one off and break your soul right away. Then we're going to stuff you for a 3 and out. Conversely, Michigan State goes, give me the ball. We're going to take it 6 minutes and a scripted Jay Johnson, specialty.
Yep.
Get it down the field. Quiet the crowd down a little bit. Make your defense not feel as good. I mean, you're right. The first 7 minutes of this game, first possession for offense and defense on each side, feels incredibly important.
Way more than
to
usual.
Set the tone for like how you're going to be. Are you going to again? Is your intensity going to match your intensity from the start of the game in the fourth quarter? Michigan hasn't had to do that. Michigan State, I think the best thing that could have happened is that they buffooned Mel Tucker that fourth quarter field goal try. I'm not going to let him off the hook for that. In getting to double overtime and winning that game. Because it gave them that they've been playing their asses off all season long, even in those stupid losses to even against Minnesota, and they looked absolutely inept. I can't say the guys didn't try. Like, they were still playing very hard. But the result was like, yeah, cool. Like, you're playing hard, but you suck. And finally they played hard and got a good positive outcome. That can go a long way into believing, hey, what if we win this game? And then what if we win the next game? Then what if you're not going to win a championship? That's out of the picture. But once you start to believe in winning, it's the same thing. I mean, look at the message boards for Michigan State after the Washington loss. It's like we'll never win another football game again.
Typical.
And then they lose the next one to Minnesota. Oh, do we overpay Tucker? We overpaid him. And then Michigan fans like Sam Webb, who is a fan by all accounts. Oh, I want to get paid to get my butt kicked. Well, bro, you paid Brady Hoke to get his butt kicked. You paid Rich Rod to get his butt kicked. You paid Harbaugh to get his butt kicked for a long time too. So, it's easy to go both ways with that. I had an issue with that guy.
Cotton candy yards, Kenneth Walker.
But it's like once you start to believe you belong.
That's why that early sort of phase
100%.
matters. And last year I wouldn't say that going in. I would not have said that going in, and it ended up not mattering. We got down 16-1 anyway because the teams felt evenly matched.
Correct.
Like, you are outmatched now, and just on paper. And a lot of that is belief. But the thing I'll say, this is Michigan State, for all the struggles they've had schematically and to every extent, especially on defense this year, you still have one of the 2 or 3 best defensive players in the conference, Jacoby Woodman, who has already tied the record for most Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week awards.
National Player of the Week this year, too.
Yeah, but I'm just talking even in conference. But on a national level, he's great.
Yeah.
But you have one of the best defensive players. I mean, objectively, he's going to set the record. If he has 6 more games to win one more Player of the Week for the conference, and he's going to have the record of everybody Katzenmoyer, name the defensive, Okuda, all the great defensive players in the history of the Big Ten. Jacoby Whitman is already tied the record.
That's insane.
And has half a season to get one more to have the record. So you have one of the best defensive players, I would argue, in the country, objectively, in the conference in the last 10 years on this defense. You have two guys that played for Alabama and Georgia in your secondary. They are talented. Speed had a couple great pass breakups against Wisconsin, one breaking up a touchdown, which it was a huge swing in that game, beautifully covered. These guys have looked disjointed all year, but they're not scrubs. These are
Right.
high four-star guys.
This isn't 2018, 2019 final D'Antonio years where it's like you've got who was that free safety number 10? He was some kid out of like a Lansing school.
Not Morrissey or something. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but it was like,
yeah,
that's your safety.
Yeah, it's
like that's a 2-star, 1-star kid that's like a walk-on who's all of a sudden your free safety.
They have real athletes.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up that interesting point about speed because I remember watching a couple of those pass breakups, and then of course they had that gaff in like the first overtime to let him open in the
yes.
Like, is Tucker onto something with like the whole inches? Like, can we like obviously in like the Minnesota loss when it was like, no, that was miles. You were miles away from being good. And then the next game it's like, no, you were still good, like, country mile from being anything.
Yes.
But then it's like you see the Wisconsin game and like, yeah, Graham Mertz, but like we made Tanner Morgan look like he was a Heisman contender, right? So you finally got Graham Mertz to like, oh, okay, well, 134 yards passing against Michigan State with bottom 5 pass defense in the country. I mean, I could go out there and feel like I could break a couple of records. It's like, are they onto something? Is this the perfect time to get the bye week? You got a huge win to make you feel like you're alive again, even though you're not for a championship. You're just alive in the world. You're not losing anymore. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I want to sit here and say Michigan's a 2-touchdown favorite, and I believe that they are, and I believe that Michigan will win this game. But gosh, it's not out of the realm of possibility for Michigan State to win this football game. It's just not.
I like going up in these situations where you're overmatched. I do as much respect as I have for McCarthy's talent, and I was saying for a year he should have been the starter last year.
Mm-hmm.
I like going up against a hero ball quarterback when you're an underdog, like because I need you to give me a fuck up or two. To feel better about myself.
JJ has not been pressed into this type of experience before.
No, it's been easy breezy, and this is the person. I don't even blame him. The coaches put him in a bad spot, but this is the individual that cost them the game last year. If McCarthy never touches the field, they beat us. I think that's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean that we needed every ounce of that luck from they got lucky on his first fumble. We needed that second fumble. We were losing that game without that second fumble. And that wasn't some blown up play where we earned the fumble. The guy dropped the ball.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I mean, it was, here you go. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if we force a fumble. That was just a gift. So, I mean, he is the reason they lost. He cost them, like Bud Kilmer, you cost me my perfect season. How does it feel? I pictured them going up to JJ. You cost me my perfect season. How does it feel? Billy Bob, cry baby? But maybe he's got ice in the veins, but I got to think, you cost the team their perfect season last year. You cost them a lot of heartache. That was his fault. I mean, I still blame the coaching staff. You put a freshman out there in the rain who doesn't know. But like your fumble, which was your error, was the literal reason you lost. Does that weigh in? I don't know. I do sense that you and I are both trying to talk ourselves into this, and that's fair if anyone's thinking that. But
That's fair.
But at the same time,
We're realistic about it, though. Because
we know we're underdogs.
And we both believe, I truly believe Michigan State is going to lose the football game.
Yeah.
I'm not putting it out of the realm of
kids,
possibility that they can win the football game. If that's I'm convincing myself that there's a shot in hell that Michigan State can win this football game because I've seen worse teams with longer odds play closer games.
Yes, repeatedly. So let's pivot to Michigan State just at large in general. Get a little bit off 10-29. I was at the Wisconsin game, so I saw this after the fact. But you had one of the more interesting kind of like pivots right on top of each other. You had a tweet about like Jay Johnson and Mel Tucker, and then you had a tweet like minutes later about Mel Tucker. Ben, can you play the 2-part play?
Oh, no.
This is during the Wisconsin game. Justin Rose, what was the timestamp? 4:41. This is you responding. Yeah, yes, I know how it works, which is why I said Jay Johnson is bad at his job. Tucker will have to let him go too, or it'll be his head down the line. Tucker is safe for a bit. So this is you saying like, oh, this OC, he's got problems. He better figure it out or else. But, Tucker's great. Let's go to part 2. Let's go to act 2.
Man.
Oh, okay. It's a couple hours later. That is so bad. That's the first red flag on Mel Tucker that I've been significantly concerned about.
Okay.
Wow. So just in the span of like 172 minutes,
but-
we went from he's beyond reproach to now he's on the block too. Now, I have the caveat in my profile. I'm not responsible for anything said during games because if I were held responsible, I'd be embarrassed.
True.
But where are you at with this?
Okay.
Because you were all over the map.
Okay. I believe that if you zoom out and you like try to look at the forest from above, Mel Tucker is obviously recruiting at a level that Michigan State has not seen before. Quite honestly, I mean, just the classes that he brought in last year, class he's assembling now. He's on a plane as we speak, trying to flip more guys, trying to make sure that the guys he's got committed are staying. He's going to put another top 25 class in the books this year, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. Mark it down, book it. He's going to do that in 2024 and beyond. Like, this is what's happening here. Mel Tucker is doing great things from the recruiting standpoint. From a coaching standpoint, if that wasn't John L. Smith slapping himself, the kids are playing their tails off and the coaches are screwing it up all over. Am I the only one that had I had nervous sweats that wait a second. I'm driving down to Detroit to an engagement party, right? So I'm listening to it on the radio, which that's another day. But I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And it's like, there was like a 2-yard run. Michigan State calls a timeout with 47 seconds to go. And I'm like, why? Why are you calling a timeout? You have the ball. You need to save your timeouts to, you're trying to get another first down. I get it. But like, what are we doing here? What are we doing
Wasn't
here?
it like 27 seconds left? Because they called the final timeout. And I remember saying
that's the next part of the story. It's like, so they called the first timeout, and I'm like, okay, all right. So they must be getting like, and I remember Strayhorn even said like they're probably getting like 2 or 3 plays that they're going to run. They're going to try to pick up the first down, and then they're going to bring in the field goal unit or whatever. So I'm like, okay, like I'm driving nervously down Woodward, and so then they run like the play, and then they call the timeout with like 12 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever it was left. And it's 4th and 1 from like the 36 or whatever. And I'm going, why did you call the timeout there if you're going to kick the field goal anyways? Or why did you run that play? Like, there's a million things going in my mind about, first of all, you shouldn't be rushing your field goal unit on for a game-winning field goal ever. I don't care if this is peewee football with your 3-year-old children running around. You do not rush a unit onto the field.
Never works out.
Ever. You ever heard of the kick 6?
That was the second best ending ever.
Pretty
in
stupid.
my lifetime.
But like, how many times has Michigan State fan lived this? Rushing a field goal. Oh, it doesn't work out. That Buckeye game, when John L. Smith's final year, the fateful play that doomed him was staring Mel Tucker in the face in his 3rd year. And I'm not saying you can't learn from it and you can't grow from it, but holy shit, dude. You cannot have coaching gaffes like that and expect to not have people like me or other people go, whoa, all these people saying this dude can't coach might be right. The reason we're going to talk about Dan Campbell, if we don't run out of time, is Dan Campbell is showing his ass more than he's showing his biceps. And I love that he's like trying to go for it on 4th down. And I love Mel Tucker's just not arrogant, but like very confident approach to the things that he does. You cannot do what he did and be like, everyone's just going to like let it go.
I would not have gone the way Tucker did handling the whole lead up to that. I would have played out the whole thing differently, and you laid some of that out. The one that was completely indefensible was the final play before rushing the unit. Once you've made the bed that you're in, I'm pretty sure they ran the final play with like 18, 19 seconds left, 17 seconds. Once you're in that spot, you have to tell your quarterback, roll out. If you can walk for a first down, because if you get a first down, you're fine. Because clock stops, you can spike it and then kick. But or just throw it away. You can't have anything that's going to get blown up, and they do that quick little 1 yard run shy of the sticks or a 1 yard pass, and it's
But you have to go back before that.
No, I agree.
Inexcusable that you used your timeouts for no reason.
I agree, but I'm saying once you are in that bed, you've already made that mistake. I told my father-in-law who was sitting with me at the game, okay, like I don't know what they're doing, but you cannot. It's
not good.
I said you cannot get tackled in bounds short of the sticks. Like I said, they got to roll out with Thorne here. If he can walk for a first down, or if someone's wide open at the marker, fine. If not, just throw it away. And you said it was like the 36 thing. I mean, the final field goal attempt was 42 yards, or it wasn't like some bomb. I just that was so mismanaged. But
that's the key word.
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways you can cut it up and slice it. Mismanaged play. Choice, timeout choice, like those are the things that like we want to believe as Michigan State fans that Mel Tucker is going to get us to that next level, get us to Big Ten championship, get us to the college football playoff. Hell, he's the one talking about titles. I'll let him say that. He wants to do that. You can't have that.
I agree.
That is Mickey Mouse bullshit.
I'm still a Tuck guy. I got to admit.
Oh, so am I. I mean, no, look, I think Tucker's the right guy for the program. Again, he's doing all these things from the exterior, but it's like we know that this 7-2-1 defense, whatever he's playing, is garbage. Like the 4-3, one game in the
7-2-1.
Yeah,
they're down again. Feels like they got 10
It doesn't even matter. Like I mean, you could do a 1-3-15 and it wouldn't matter. Like I mean,
it might be 10 guys up. Maybe that's been the problem the whole time. They're playing with 10.
They just need to put mascots out there and just have a bunch of masks, like in NCAA football. You just play a Sparty and run around. But no, I mean, like he's got Hazelton. Hazelton's probably he's probably got to go. Like I mean, unless they're gonna completely adjust to this 4-3 scheme. Like, it doesn't work. Rich Rod tried to bring that to Michigan. We all know that didn't work out well, that 3-2-5 or whatever. I mean, he was running that 3-3-5 out of West Virginia that he brought to the Big Ten. Like, Mel's going to have to run this like all the places that he's seen have success. Alabama, Georgia, the NFL teams that he has been a part of. This is a business. Mel Tucker knows that more than Mark D'Antonio could ever realize that. And he knows that. So I think that's why Mel's the right guy, because he still recruits at a high level. He still understands what it takes to win at a high level. He's worked at places that have that, which Mark D'Antonio, I mean, yeah, he had a couple years at Ohio State, but that was like the Tressel time. We're different. Doesn't that feel like a different?
It was like 100 years ago.
It feels like it was a completely different era of where we are in college athletics. All of these things are so different. And Mel Tucker, he's the right guy for this program. But again, as the head coach, it does come back to you at the end. I don't know who called those timeouts. Was it him? Was it his OC? Was it Peyton Thorne? But like first one, okay, give you a pass. You saved the last one until you need it.
But the game management's always on the head coach.
Always.
At the end of the game. I mean, you can always say, buck stops with the head coach. It does. But that is literally the head coach always dictating that.
That
minutes.
Was the scariest. That was the reason why that tweet. And I'm now that I'm kind of away from like the media spotlight, and I don't have to watch my words as carefully as I do. I have to get back to my old rule of don't tweet out like blasting, like this guy's the worst ever, like during a game, because you know what? The game's still going on. So you could say, Peyton Thorne's the worst quarterback I've ever seen, and then he throws for 300 yards the rest of the way, and you're like, well, that was pretty stupid to say. Like, don't have a reactionary tweet like I did in that moment. But that Mel Tucker thing, I mean, that
was bad.
If they would have lost that game, he would not have been able to. I mean, and nobody asked him about it. Nobody.
Well, after the game, I think he was asked about the sequence at the end.
He gave some like, we won the game.
He wasn't grilled.
We won the game.
If they had lost, they would have been grilled.
If you'd have lost the game,
yeah, they got away with one.
But that's my point. John L. Smith didn't get away with it because he lost the football game. Mel Tucker's getting this one and only pass from me, at least, for this poor mismanagement. If this happens again, it's like you have to start really understanding, like, then hire a game manager. If you're not it, fine. Be the CEO. I don't care. If Mel Tucker wants to be the head recruiter and the head coach de facto and hire coordinators and like a game manager to like say, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. I'll be in charge of the timeouts. Fine. Do whatever you want. But don't make that mistake again, because you're going to get beat when it matters in a way that, like, again, people are even talking about Dylan Larkin, and I didn't even think about this perspective. Dylan Larkin dives and saves that empty netter goal last night, right? So they get 1 point. What if the Wings make the playoffs by 1 point? And in the third game of the season, Dylan Larkin diving for an empty net stop. It's the same thing. What if Mel Tucker's, like, will, if they lose that game and Mel Tucker gets fired because he has under 500 record after 4 years, because that was the one. Like, you hope it doesn't happen. But my point is the ripple effect of that type of coaching gaffe reverberates for
the
really long.
The margin of error is too tight. It's too tight in sports at the highest level.
You cannot do that. You cannot put yourself in a position where these kids are doing everything you're asking them to do, and the coaches are screwing it up. And that quote will always be ingrained in my mind. And it's like, I say that to myself. Like, when people put me in a situation to succeed and I screw up, I always go back to that. The kids are playing their tails off and the coach is screwing it up. Like, I mean, I've used that in my life. So maybe I'm just so triggered by that Ohio State. Like,
I think everybody was. That was Twitter I was on after the fact, but I like going back, and people I respect were like doing the John L. Face slap GIF or GIF or whatever they're called.
Yeah, is it? I go GIF.
I always fuck that up.
Yeah, I go GIF.
Do you want to talk about something else? I want to get into a little bit of the Lions
here.
Sure.
We could do Michigan State for forever.
Well, we know you have it down as a loss, but a closer than people think loss.
Yeah, I would say that. I would go on the record saying Michigan State should lose the football game. I think I take Michigan State points if it's 14-18. I think I take them with the points, but I think it's a 10 to 14.
I mean, this game's 11 days away. Between now and kickoff, I will predict everything. There will be a day where I'm having us win outright. There'll be a day where I think we're lose by 100. I have enough of these ebbs and flows when it's 1 week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many on the record predictions that I will be wrong and right.
I will be at a Halloween party on that Saturday night. And
what?
Yes.
You're not even gonna watch?
I think I'm gonna DVR it.
Oh, that is a fail by you.
Well, it's not really a choice.
Okay.
You know how these things work.
Yeah. And those choices become even more stringent when your offspring arrive.
Yes.
Whenever you cross that bridge. So let's pivot to a happier topic. The Detroit Lions.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Now here's the Detroit Lions. I am a Lions fan. I get accused of you're not a real fan or you don't even like them. It's like, it's because I want them to do well that I'm kind of a jerk about them. I have been tortured for every year of my life. I'm 35 years old. I've cared since I was about 5 or 6. I have vivid memories of going to my first game as a 6-year-old, and they lost, and I was sad. I mean, I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been a 30-year torture. I had no redemption, really. I mean, you get the little flicker. The one team I thought that I was old enough to remember well that was really good was that 2014 team. Even they didn't win a playoff game or a division. I want to talk about Dan Campbell specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I came out against this aggressively, vocally, to the point where people were calling me every name in the book for being too negative. I said it before he was hired when he was mentioned. I said it immediately after. This is not going to work. They have blown this. I will not really, frankly, bet on any Lions coach working out because how could I? I'd be going bankrupt if I ever made that wager at any point. But it's the worst possible bet on the board. If you looked at in Vegas, they had the 5 most likely. Dan Campbell was a late add to that list when he cold called Sheila Ford. But it was, Salah was the odds-on favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Lewis was in there. After the fact, I came out and said, for all we shit on Marvin Lewis, look at Marvin Lewis's record. He was working for one of the worst owners in the league, and he won the division, a really hard division with the Ravens and the Steelers in it, who were winning titles during this period. He won that division 5 times or 4 times?
Right.
And was a wild card a couple other times. No, I'm not saying he's the best coach ever. He was going 10-6, 9-7 in some of those years, the hardest division. I would have liked that over this. I think I have been. The book's not done, but we're in chapter 7 of a 10-chapter book in what I think in the tenure here in terms of the timeline. I think we're past the halfway point of his days employed. Might be wrong. That's what I think. I feel near full vindication. I think this has been the precise failure that I said it would be, that I told everyone it would be, that I was called names for pointing out. I have seen more than even I thought I would see in terms of lack of preparation, lack of comfort, lack of feel, lack of experience shining through. And you see it in these game management moments. He has no feel. As far as I'm concerned, he flat out cost them one game already. He flat out he took them from a 30% win probability against Philadelphia to a 0 with that ridiculous onside kick with the ridiculous timeout at the end of the first half, giving Philadelphia an extra score. He has blown whatever shot this team had of being at least interesting in the second half. I'm done. This thing is not working. It's not going to work. This is not an internship. I just get out. And all these people saying, oh, he signed 6 years. Who gives a shit? Fire. Who cares? It's
contracts
not,
are contracts,
especially for a coach.
Right.
It's not like A-Rod when he was making $38 million. Like, just where do you stand on this? This is a failure, right? He's not gonna turn this around.
Lot to unpack there.
Are you a Dan Campbell guy? What more do you need to see?
So, here's the thing about professional football head coaches. Well, they're all worthless. They're all worthless. Do you think that Bill Belichick himself won those titles? I think that...
Oh, no one themselves wins.
That's my point.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters in the NFL is talent. Period. And I'm going to say full stop because I know how much you hate that.
I disagree with you so much.
I think that talent is, if you look, these guys don't give a shit about the rah-rah siskumba. They don't care. You don't think that these guys know where they're supposed to be in the scheme? They know what they're supposed to do. They're professional athletes. This isn't, Jimmy from DeWitt coming over as a 3-star walk-on and you got to coach him up in case he gets his name called. There's a 53-man roster. And of that 53, you got to have 11 starters on offense and 11 starters on defense. And then that's of the rest of it, you got to figure it out. And if you don't have depth at those positions, if you don't have guys that are functional in an NFL professional environment, you will lose more football games than you will win. The number one thing, fans always with the Lions,
well, the Ford family, they won't win until they sell the team. Well, their coaches always stink.
They have no talent. Now, to your point, I completely agree that Dan Campbell lost them the Vikings game. 100%. 100%. I completely agree that Dan Campbell lost them the Eagles game. 100%. I'm not gonna say he has nothing. They're a part of the team. That's why it's called a team. The team has to do it all. Like, you have to have players that can execute. You have to have coaches that can execute. You have to have front office people that can put the players out there that need to be successful. It's multifaceted. It's like the government, for the love of God. You got to have people that are doing it. My point is that I'm not going to sit here and bag on Dan Campbell because they don't have talent. So even if Dan Campbell, okay, wait, hang on. Hypothetically, I know.
I need a paper bag.
Hypothetically, they win those games. They still lose to the Patriots, right? Okay, so they're what, 3-2?
Okay, hold on. Why do they have to lose to the Patriots? Why do they have to?
Well, we're doing a hypothetical here. Okay, they're undefeated. There, is that better? They're undefeated. Is Dan Campbell getting Coach of the Year nods?
If they're undefeated?
Yeah.
He'd be running away with it.
So in 5 games, and one of them is a win, you're going to say this guy is inept, he's stupid, he's never going to win, he's a loser, get rid of him, I've seen all I need to see. But if he's undefeated, then he is front runner for Coach of the Year.
Well, no,
in 5 games, in a 5-game sample size.
Are we pretending last year didn't happen? He was a clown show last year. Do you remember what they did in the Ravens game, calling timeout for Lamar Jackson? They lost that game because of him.
I'm not saying that Dan Campbell doesn't have deficiencies.
So in 20-some games, he has blown himself 3 to 4 games, and this is okay to you? That's
I'm
not
not
normal.
saying it's okay.
Listen,
I'm simply saying they don't have the talent that can actually compete.
You don't need talent to not go for it on 4th and 9. That has nothing to do with your talent. That is
I
your
like
decision.
the aggressive approach.
On 4th and 9?
Yes.
You're insane.
Because you know what? Fuck it.
We gave each other a back rub on the Michigan State topic. I had no idea this was your position on the Lions.
I don't think Dan Campbell is like the scapegoat.
No, we all know it's bigger than him, but he is
like,
another in a long line of the problem.
I can agree with you in that. But I also think that this franchise needs a guy like Dan Campbell. I know that sounds so hokey and so stupid, and I know fans don't want to hear this.
No, they love him.
My personal opinion is that the Lions need a jovial spirit on the sideline because they're going to lose regardless. Until they get some frickin' talent, they are never going to win anything that matters.
Hold on.
Listen. Let's hope that the Rams just continue to suck. Because if the Lions can somehow get 2 top 15 picks, get some defensive help, maybe hit a second-round pick. For the love of God, hit a second-round pick. Because, again, you cannot sit here and say the Lions are where they are without understanding that they've hit on -1 second-round pick in the last 25,000 years.
You're making an NBA argument for the NFL. This whole coaching doesn't matter thing.
Coaching doesn't matter.
This is one of the craziest things anyone's ever said. We've had a lot of I mean, the NBA. You can look at Tyronn Lue, who can barely tie his shoelaces, winning titles. Mike Brown in the finals,
Professional
coaching can matter, but the NBA
can matter, and can matter in everything. You think Derek Lalonde for the Red Wings is all of a sudden going to fix every issue the Red Wings have had because Jeff Blashill sucked?
The 2014 Detroit Lions.
Jim Caldwell.
Yeah. That was one of the most talented teams in the NFL the past decade. And you want to laugh? They had, the number may have since changed, but as of that year, they had the second highest rated defense through PFF's overall defensive rating in the prior 10. PFF had that as one of the best 2 or 3 defenses of the past decade. Mm-hmm. They had Sue, Fairley, they had DeAndre Levy when he was still good. Their offense, Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate when he was at the peak, catching 95 balls a year. Reggie Bush when he was still good. The last 1,000-yard rusher before, that was eclipsed again.
No offensive line.
What?
You had no offensive line that year.
They didn't have a bad offensive line. It was the weakest of the 3. But you had a franchise quarterback. You had 2 star receivers. You had a good running back. And you had one of the best defenses of the past decade. Why did they lose? Because Jim Caldwell fucked up the end of the game. Fact. So this whole coaching doesn't matter. It's a talent thing. You had more talent than Dallas. You had a 2-touchdown lead. You had the ball in the lead with a chance to stick a knife in, and you made a statistical, objective mistake in a decision to punt the ball, and that is why you lost. That is the only reason you lost. So this talent thing, I don't want to hear it.
So you're trying to say that the coaching decision for him not to go for it on 4th down.
Yes.
But then you're killing this guy because he went for it on 4th.
Do you understand the difference between
I do understand
4th and 1 and 4th and 9
and 4th and 1?
Do you understand the difference between this ends the game if you get this 4th and short, or you're in the first quarter and it's 4th and 9 or second, whatever it was? It's a completely different scenario. 4th and 1.
I understand. No. I understand the difference between 4th and 9 and 4th and 1, but I'm saying you got to be like a riverboat gambler. And that's why Les Miles always got that nickname, right? Because he would spice it up. He'd throw a couple of die when he shouldn't, Dan Campbell right now is doing exactly that. Now, look, going for it on 4th down 6 times, yes, that's laughable. That's funny. That's actually
they set
a
the NFL
joke.
record for most failed conversions.
Yes. And I even said during the Minnesota game, there was one that he went for that he didn't get late in the game or in the middle of the game. I forget which one it was because they've gone for it so many freaking times on 4th down. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? And I think to your point, I want Dan Campbell to be aggressive and go for it on 4th down more often than not, but when it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I'm with you. Again, okay, maybe I was a little bit more coaching doesn't matter at all. Yes, it matters certainly. But then you hear Matt Patricia say well, didn't you know that play that I called that won us the Super Bowl? Ha ha ha. Again, we all laugh at that guy for thinking his coaching mattered when it didn't. It was a talent thing. It was literally the guy made a bad pass and the guy made a good play. That's what happened. No coach moved his body and put it there to make the interception. The coach made the call to throw it instead of pass it. Bad call on the bad coaching, but the execution still is the second half of it. It's the same thing with the players, man. And that's why I say coaching doesn't matter as much as we think it does in the NFL. We all think, oh, the coaches may. If you execute and they go 6 for 6 on 4th down, I think he's a genius. We think he's the best coach of all time because he knows when to go for it and he knows what plays to call. That's my point. We were talking about that 5-game sample size from this year. If they're undefeated, you're thinking he's leading for coach of the year. But they're not. They're 1-4, so he should get fired. That's where it's like this, and I'm not discrediting last season. You're right. It's all part of the long journey of like Dan Campbell's tenure here, whether it's 3 years, whether it's 10 years, whether it's another 2 games. The point I'm trying to make is that everybody just needs to chill out on the coaches until they actually have a roster. The best example you brought up was that 2014 team. Covered that team. That team was good. It was a damn good football team.
That was a Super Bowl roster.
That was a very good football team.
Teams that have won the Super Bowl that have less. That's the fact.
And
Just
people wanted to say, well, Jim Caldwell couldn't get him over the hump, right? That was they thought they were going to build off that year and like go crazy. We've seen success in the NFL is so fleeting. It's so fleeting. Every team is built to go 8-8. The parity is just too damn good in the NFL. You got 3 or 4 teams that are really crappy, and you got 3 or 4 teams that are really good. You could count them in, those 3 or 4 teams, for 11-plus wins. You can count in these guys for 11-plus losses. A handful of teams every year, right? Usually it's the Lions, Jacksonville on the bottom end, and then you got like the Chiefs and the Patriots at the top end of that. But everybody else is a couple of calls, a couple of bad bounces, a fumble, an interception, a missed field goal off the upright away from 10-6. Hey, we're good. 6-10. Oh, we suck. Think about that. Think about that razor thin margin of success. 2 games. It's 2 games that go your way or the other way.
Yeah, but this has been 65 years of the Lions never levitating into that top 4. Look at all the teams that have been this, or at least on the doorstep of a Super Bowl, if not been in one. Everyone rips on the Jets. They were on the doorstep of the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Everyone rips on the Jaguars. They've been to 2 conference championship games. Everyone makes fun of the Cardinals. They've been to the Super Bowl. Everyone was making fun of the Raiders. Back in the day, were winning a ton, but they've been in the Super Bowl this century. So I get like, it's hard and it's a lot of parity. Yeah, everybody but us, even the Houston Texans, everyone makes fun of Bill O'Brien. They won that division 3 times, or at least twice, multiple times. I've never seen a division win in my lifetime, and I was still shitting my pants when it happened. I was alive, but not really coherent. So I get, it's a parity league. Yeah, it's up and down. This team's never up. They haven't had one division win since I could spell my name. They haven't won a playoff game.
But why get mad about it then? I'm just
saying, you're writing it off as, that's the NFL.
It is, because the thing is not for anybody else. History does not matter to these guys. I know it's coach speak, and I know it's like I've interviewed enough athletes over a 15-year career to know that they don't give a shit what happened yesterday, last year, last week. They do not care. These guys have no allegiance to the Detroit Lions beyond Aiden Hutchinson watching them grow up. Yeah. Like, seriously.
I'm not saying they do.
Like, Jared Goff doesn't give a shit that the Lions have never been good. He's probably bummed because he knows what a bum franchise it is, and he's playing for a bum franchise because everybody's been telling him for as long as he can imagine how bum they are. That's what he knows about the Detroit Lions. But, like, as far as on-the-field stuff, these guys don't care about the history. Fans hang on to it because that's what fans do. So that's why I say, like, what do you want to do? Fire Dan Campbell and go into another head coaching search and get another general manager, and then you have to trade these players and draft new players. It's like you are completing the cycle over and over and over again. Why have you not been able to get to the next level? Because you have no consistency. At least be consistent in one thing and be bad until you get good. Because if you're thinking, like I'm thinking, that the parity is this the way that it is, and it's like, okay, you could do Dan Campbell for 4 years, fire him, and then start over again. And then you could do Dan Campbell again, and you could do, it's like, no, stick to it. Figure it out. Learn on the fly. Try to figure out how you can get better as a team, as a head coach making these duties. Don't go for it again on 4th down 6 times in a game, okay? Honey, we done that. Remember what happened? It was no good. Bad. Don't do that again. Okay, right? We can all laugh and we can all say, like, yeah, that was a stupid thing to do. But unless he does it again, it's the same thing with Mel Tucker with the timeouts. I've given him the pass. And I'm giving Dan Campbell this time to get his feet wet because I think he's a leader of men. And as much as that doesn't matter to me in the grand scheme of things, I think guys like to play for him. I think he has changed the perception inside that locker room that they're tired of losing. Hard Knocks gave us a nice little, at least, insight to the play up of that, probably more so than anything. But I also think that Brad Holmes has his best days ahead of him, getting talent on this team. So it's like, you can't just sit here. Like, you got to go. Lions fans, they're going to kill me for saying this.
No,
you got to go through the shit
They love all
to
this
get.
nonsense.
You got to go through the shit to get to where you want to go. And I
How
know that's
long do-
65
How
years.
long do I have to wait? I mean, this is Andy Dufresne climbing through shit to get out of Shawshank was like 3%. Give him more time. My dad is in his 70s and is going to be dead and never see them do anything. And it's this, how, the presumptuousness of this, the presumption that give what time?
Because what are you going to do? What is your solution?
Hire someone competent?
Oh, because they haven't tried that before?
Okay, there's different ways. First of all, I'm on the train that it doesn't matter because the Fords are losers and they'll lose no matter what. So,
then stop the conversation.
But I run a sports show and they're the most popular. I want them to do well. So it's not really in my power to do anything. But what we know is possible is replacing the people downstream or beneath the totem pole there or lower on the totem pole. I'm sorry. Salah probably would have failed because everybody fails here. But at least you're failing making some sense.
But how do you know he was going to just? How do you know that he was going to make the Lions the Jets this year?
Nobody knows anything.
Correct.
But it's what wager. It's about what bet are you going to make? Am I going to bet on?
I'm betting on Dan Campbell.
Why?
I will say that right now. I'm betting on Dan Campbell.
What evidence?
Just a gut feeling.
Okay, great. That's a very compelling case. That would get you convicted.
I'm literally telling you.
Your client's going to jail.
Listen,
for life. for petty theft, he's going to get locked up for 20 years for stealing a Kit Kat bar. Because you are the worst attorney. That's the case. You have a hunch. There's no evidence. I love you. You're one of my favorite media people.
I am telling you.
Devastating topic.
No, because I want to make it very clear that I don't care about the Lions. Like, I never care about the Lions.
That's apparent because you are content to watch it burn.
But I will say that I think that what the organization and the franchise need as a whole is a guy like Dan Campbell.
This is the
We're
lowest
going off the rails.
This is the lowest self-esteem organization. What they've done to a respected member of the media, a 4-time Emmy winner, coming in here saying they need Bozo the Clown to come here and toot the horn.
Oh, I'm telling you.
And give them a neck massage as they're losing again. I just, a humiliate. Go hang another playoff appearance banner, you losers. I mean, I love how they had to bring, even they realized that banner had to come down.
They're not going to beat the Cowboys.
No, and they're going to lose. What's the next game? It's like, it's another tough one, isn't it? I know they're. I have to pull up the schedule. I think they're expected to be 1-7. I know they're going to be underdogs.
Hey, fantasy football tip for all you players out there.
Here we go.
Pick up the defense that the Lions are playing against because that's how I'm starting to get my second half of the season rolling here. Is I've got all of the teams the Lions are playing because the thing is Goff's going to turn the ball over. They're going to get a 4th down stop or two. There's a chance that the defense can score a touchdown because they're trying to do too damn much. Trying to reset it and bring it back to reality here. This is honestly, this is how I feel about the Lions. I think you have to give Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell at least another season, a full rest of the season, full next season.
Okay. I'd get rid of the coach now. But the Holmes thing, here's what I'll say about Brad Holmes. That roster was borderline devoid of talent, and you had a quarterback that you basically had to trade because his heart was gone.
Yes.
And inheriting a disaster where the one good player you really had, or they had a couple, but one of the few good players you really had was I'm out of here. He already has assembled on one side of the ball a great collection of talent. That offense is a treasure trove of talent. The last game, they literally got shut out, but they showed something in the first month.
It's because the defense didn't do them any friggin' favors.
Right. I'm just saying, I think what he's done, where you inherited almost nothing and pretty quickly already have a good one half of the football, that's pretty impressive. And anything that you have against Dan Campbell, which, I mean, you think he's the best coach ever, but or coaching doesn't matter, so who cares how bad he is. But you cannot, for whatever extent, like a sane person like me that can see that he's bad, you can't blame Holmes for that because this was an arranged marriage. I mean, this was like in Dubai. Like, I mean, he didn't hire this
that's
guy.
fair.
So
Now-
I don't. You can't even blame Holmes for that.
So where'd Ben Johnson come from? Who brought Ben to the party?
wasn't he down on the staff like in a lower role even before
Like
Campbell
with
got
Matty
here?
Patty?
I thought he was. Don't quote me on that. I know he was.
My point
elevated
is like, okay,
from Campbell's
so
staff.
we've got a guy here that's potentially in the wings that could
Maybe.
Maybe,
Jim Bob Cooper
maybe.
was great for 8 games. You know,
exactly.
Jim Bob Cooper
Like
ended up
I'm
being bad.
obviously not sitting here saying, oh, you got your next guy right in the wings if Dan
Yeah.
Campbell doesn't figure it out. But my point is that to your point about Brad Holmes, listen, got to give that guy time. He's got an eye for talent. He's got, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I'm good
obviously, like, yeah, good with that.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to my like chicken or the egg. Like, is it coaching or is it talent? Is it coaching or is it talent? It's both. It's both things have to work, but talent will always get you over the hump. There's a reason that we talk about the Chiefs' offense being, they lost. They lost to the Bills. Why did they lose to the Bills? The Bills have better players.
Yeah, but don't cheapen Andy Reid. Andy Reid rolls out of bed, which takes him about an hour. But when he does get out, he wins 12 games every year, no matter who he's with. And I mean,
But the
including
talent-
Alex
well-
Smith at quarterback, who was a retread.
Whoa.
He's a 12-4 now.
They were
12.
losing a lot of games before they got good.
Okay, look at Andy Reid. What are you talking about?
Andy Reid has not always been just this like bona fide winner. He had a couple of tough seasons.
Okay, in 22 years, what has he had? Like 1 or 2 losing
But I'm saying
seasons?
early on in his career.
Let's pull that up. I mean,
The thing is no great coach just like Sean McVay. Everyone wants to talk about how great Sean McVay. Sean McVay won a Super Bowl. Yeah, like great in his first couple of seasons. Sean McVay is going through it now once again. He's going to go through it again.
we're looking at year 10 of the Andy Reid era in KC.
Yeah.
He's never had a losing season or even a 500 season. Every year he's won.
Never won.
Not in KC. He had in Philly.
That's where I'm thinking.
Even so, he was
still good.
130 and 93. I mean, that is like he flamed out at the very end. But
That's why they fired him.
he
They
had
thought he lost the juice.
He had 5 straight seasons of at least 11 wins. By the way, 5 straight 11-win seasons. The Lions in the history of their franchise have never won 10 games in 2 consecutive years. This guy won 11 in 5 years in a row. Went 6 and 10, and then won 10 games another year after that. So Andy Reid's the man. So it's not. What did McNabb do the second he got off Andy Reid's teeth? He sucked in Washington. I mean, Alex Smith was a just average game manager in San Fran. He was going 12-4 with him. Coaching matters way more than you're saying. And I'm sorry, when you get into this chess match, if the talent's even close, I mean, they're in a different conference, so it's not the best example. But let's say Andy gets, the Lions aren't going to any Super Bowls. But if you're in a chess match where you have to win a game against Andy Reid, and the talent's even close to the same, even if you have more talent, you're telling me Dan Campbell is going to sit down at the chess table with Andy Reid and even be competitive, let alone outcoach him? Andy Reid would embarrass Dan Campbell. Bill Belichick had Dan Campbell and his staff in a torture rack in that game in New England. You're telling me Bailey Zappi, a 3rd-string, 4th-round rookie quarterback making his first start of his life, a guy that no one thought would even have pads on for a game this year, he wasn't even the backup. He was the backup to a shitty Michigan State backup. That team in that game, in that spot, a team with an over-under in Vegas of like 7.5 this year, was 30 points better than the Lions talent-wise. They got outcoached and they got clowned by the master.
Ugh. And that stupid pencil guy.
Yeah. I don't give
Can
Patricia
I tell you
really
how
any
much I
credit.
dislike Matt Patricia?
Oh, well, we can find common ground there.
From a personal perspective.
Well,
I
yeah.
think Matt Patricia is...
Did you interact with him?
Oh, yeah. Just the worst.
Was he? It's funny because
He's so arrogant.
Yeah.
And, like, the thing is like, I think my time in the Detroit sports media was... I'd like to keep things jovial. I laugh at myself. If this conversation isn't proof of exactly who I am as a journalist, like I am totally okay with being wrong, but at the same time, it's like, let's have fun with it, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about sports. This isn't like literally life and death. So it's like, I would always, like, I'm the one that called Dan Campbell the dude. Like in his first press conference. Like, I was just, that was like, you know, and like they went, the Lions ran with that, you know? So it's like, I've always been somebody who's like tried to like get good stuff out of guys, like personable stuff that, you know, 40-year-old Martha in Plymouth will like on my, you know, my local TV sports show. But my point is like, first time I got to meet him, you know, the first day, of course, everyone's like, you know, they're throwing flower petals and the doves are being released and everyone's so happy. And then you start getting into the thick of the season. Lions are losing. Matt Patricia's just saying, I got to coach him better. I got to coach better. Got to coach better. Got to coach better. So it's like, then you start asking him, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? When you say that you need to coach them better, explain to me like I'm 5 what that means. Well, you know, I mean, just got to coach better. You know, I think we got to talk about the fun. I mean, he would just break it down to me like literally like I was 5, but he would give me nothing. So then, you know, halfway through the season, he's getting off the podium or whatever, and you know, I asked the last question. I tried to be something light, like, you know, I don't remember exactly what it was, but like he kind of, you know, he did that thing where he narcissistically looks at you and he goes, "That's a good question." Like he would say that. That's a good question. Were you
at the Rothstein press conference, the bad posture one?
Oh,
were you there?
Yes,
you were there that day. Was he? Is that like I mean, Rothstein's like 7 feet tall. I know he's not.
No, he was like this, and he had his like phone down like this.
He was like that.
He was looking at his phone.
That is kind of disrespectful. I may have to say, if he's sitting there like low riding in a cutlass.
But he was looking at. What he was doing is he was getting his phone propped up because he sits in the front row and he was shooting up at him on a podium.
Oh,
so he was down like this, like kind of getting it focused. Okay. And then as soon as he got it focused, he kind of just stayed there for a second. And then he made that comment. But anyways, he was just arrogant, arrogant. And
wasn't he late all the time? I think Rodgers,
always late.
Justin Rogers, I think, told
always
me that.
late.
Yeah.
And then he would, you know, like he would like make a joke like how, you know, I got caught up. And it's like, dude, you don't value our time. That's fine. We don't need you to. But also don't sit here and like that would be like somebody saying, you know, these are the rules and everybody stays by the rules. Nobody's above the rules except for me. Do
you know if Belichick has like a tardiness problem?
I don't.
I know you don't cover them, but I didn't know if you heard through mutual contact.
No, Belichick just doesn't say anything.
Well, I know that, but I'm just curious if he showed up late all the time.
There's no, and like that's what the thing about Matt Patricia. He was trying to be something he wasn't. Right. But anyways, just to finish that first part of the story, like I asked him like some jovial question about maybe it was like the fans or the community. I don't remember what it was, but it was something for him to end the press conference on a light note. And like I'm getting, you know, I went to grab like my cord or something, and he comes up to me and he goes, "How was that? How'd I do?" And then he just left. And I wanted to be like, dude, first of all, it sucked, and secondly, don't pander to me. Like I don't need you to pander to me. Like again, it's like these guys think that their words and actions mean so much to so many people, and at the end of the day, it's like. They don't unless people like you. And nobody liked Matt Patricia. Ever. I don't think he was ever, even on his opening day. Hang on real quick. I'll put this pencil in my ear. Yeah. Nobody liked him. Nobody was happy about that hire.
I was for 5 minutes.
Ugh, I wasn't even happy. As soon as he walked into the room, I said, this is a disaster.
Yeah, it was a very early bail. I got off that train very fast, but I can't lie. I didn't delete the tweets. They're out there. I said, going in the audio version of the show too, I'm like, look, this probably won't work. The Patriots thing fails every time, but seems like a bright guy. And other than the Super Bowl that we just saw 5 seconds ago, they've been a good unit for 6 years. And, you know, to me, it made sense. I never think anything's going to work that they do, but I think it made more sense than Dan Campbell on paper. Now I would take almost anybody over Patricia because guys aren't going to play for him. You're ripping your franchise corner in front of the team. I mean, it's just I don't care. Even if he was brilliant schematically, it wouldn't matter.
And he wasn't brilliant schematically.
No, but
because
I'm saying
again,
like
yeah. No, and again, and so that's where it's like, you know, I will stand down on my previous comments about coaching not mattering as much in the NFL as it does. It does matter. I will still say I'm way more talent oriented when guys even like John Harbaugh. And how many times, like, the trust that he has with Lamar and, like, all those, like, recent stories you've seen, like, let's go for it, coach. Okay, I got your dog. Like, yeah. Like, that's, like, this. That's the talent. Like, if Jared Goff would have said to Dan, I think he said afterwards, I should have told him I wanted to do something different. And he didn't. He didn't speak up because he didn't maybe have the talent or at least like the gumption of saying like, I can speak up to this guy because he trusts me. And he said that after the game, like, I should have said we should have gone for it. I should have said more, should have done more. Like, that's what you get over time, but you get with the talented guys. Like, do you question Lamar Jackson if he wants to go for it? No, you don't. Even when he was like a rook, you didn't really do that. Do you question Jared Goff when he wants to go for it? Yeah, because he's not that good. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Like,
why is it incumbent on the player to bail out the coach? These were obvious layup decisions. These were not coin flip.
No.
Field
the
goal
4 and 9, the 4 and 9, 4th and 9. I mean, the turnover for the touchdown return. Yes, obviously, terrible decision. Kick the ball and put your defense on the field. Like,
yeah.
This is not rocket science. I get with that, but again, they're all connected. So we want to be mad at the players, fine. We want to be mad at the coaches, fine. We want to be mad at the organization, fine. But it's almost like they all have equal weight and blame on them.
Fair. I don't like Dan Campbell, so
I like Dan Campbell.
No, as a guy, I like him.
So
I said 100 times I'm rooting to be wrong.
Okay, so let's make a bet.
I'm in.
All right, I think Dan Campbell will have a winning record next year.
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah.
How much?
What do you want to bet? A little.
You can't give me a number that would scare me off that.
No, I don't want to do like money. I want to do something like some of these.
Are you a cigar smoker?
I'm a big cigar guy.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So we'll do
like a nice 4-pack, like a nice 4-pack.
Okay.
I'm talking like a $70 4-pack.
Done.
Yeah, something like that.
Done.
You're on. A winning record.
Winning record. Dan Campbell
What
will
if
lead the Lions.
What if he's fired mid-year? Do I win if he's 2-4?
All bets are null and void. This is just like DraftKings.
I want to collect if he's 1-9 or 1-7
I'll get you a nice
or something.
Monte Cristo White Series.
If it's clear, if I'm about to win, there's no technicalities here. Just like if he's 8-0 and like God forbid like dies or something.
Pony it up.
Yeah, I'll pony up. That. So all right,
I think next year though, because I think that's the thing is like I am not a quick fix guy in the NFL. I'm just not, and I know that some people like. Do you really think just because the Jets are winning now, you think the Jets are going to win shit this year? Absolutely not. They're hot right now. It's a 4 segments, 4-game seasons. It's 4 games, 4 games,
better than this shit. I mean, better than
I
this
don't
shit.
disagree, but I also don't think the Jets are going to like surprise anybody and get to a wild card.
Why are the Lions a one-team exception? Like everybody else turns it around fast.
Because
like why? Why do we make these excuses?
Why is the sky blue? Why is grass green? Like God makes things these ways.
So God made. Well, God did a bad job with the construction of that one. So all right, let's pivot. Because we are running long. I want to get into Ben. Play that beauty. I think you have some clips of Justin from his prior career, not video clips. I wouldn't do that to you too much, but just a little. No, you didn't. It's just pictures. You looking very handsome, but we touched on it earlier. An interesting decision. We touched on it at the Open.
Like Teen Wolf.
You highly.
Mark D'Antonio with the Nike vest.
I found your decision.
Johnny Kane.
Johnny Kane.
Dude, I look so fat there.
Johnny,
Jesus.
Well, you got to lift more.
Hey, there we go.
You got the Emmys going.
That's right.
So you've had so many stories in your career.
Tommy Izzo.
You had so many interactions that we talked about. You were there for Trouble with the Snap, and you're interviewing Coach Mark D'Antonio right after. But there's a story in research for this. I read my friend Tony Paul's article. I think I read it at the time too last year when you made this decision to pivot and completely reject a TV offer, which no one does. You had a little tidbit in the Tony Paul story that I had never heard before. And I want the actual story because Tony didn't expand on it in the story, and I wanted more. You were there when Dave Dombrowski got fired?
I was.
Like right outside the door? You were the first one to know? Like,
was the first one to know.
Tell me that story. I'll just turn my mic off.
No.
What was that story?
No, that's okay. So I remember it was pregame locker room. They open it up at like 3:30 for a home game or whatever. And so it was me. I was down there. I got there early because, of course, I'm an MMJ, so I got my own camera and my own microphone. Going to go in, do a pregame sound thing, wrap something on the field, and then send it back, and they'll run it at 6 o'clock newscast. And I remember, like, the locker room didn't open, and I saw Dombrowski go into the locker room. And no one was around. So I'm like, okay. So then I'm standing there, and like Jeff Rieger comes down from 97 won the ticket, and I'm like, Jeff, something's going on. Like 20 minutes late, and Dombrowski just went in there. And then Jeff's like, oh, okay, well, I got time. So he like runs back somewhere. I don't know if he went back down to the field or whatever. So again, I'm just by myself hanging out there. And all of a sudden I see this kid, and he's carrying these 2 large like duffel bags, like hockey bags. They look like hockey gear bags, and they're just chock full of shit. And he's crying. And he's walking out, and he just walks right by me, right up the tunnel. What's going on here? Like, what is going on here? So then I see Dombrowski like walk out. And I said, hey, Dave, how are you? And he kind of just looks at me, looks down, and just walks right out the tunnel underneath, which is where the players' cars go underneath that street and then into the players' like lot or whatever. And I was like, holy shit. So Rieger comes back, and I go, Rieger, I think something's going on with Dombrowski. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, he went in there. This kid came out. Come to find out, I said, this kid came out crying with these full bags. And I was like, he looks like a team manager. And he goes, Dombrowski's kid's a team manager. And I'm like, dude, I think Dombrowski got fired. And he's like, come on, no, what are you talking? And I'm like, look, this is what happened. Dombrowski came in. The kid left with stuff. Dombrowski left and went straight down to the exit. I go, I'm not willing to like tweet it or anything like at this exact moment, but like I think we need to alert. So I like called my executive producer, and I was like, hey, I think we need to get an article ready. Like, start writing it, get it ready. And he's like, how sure are you? And this is something that pissed me off about local news. I mean, I had been working there. When did he get fired?
2015.
2015. So I had been there for a little over a year. And like, I mean, look, I don't expect everyone to give instant credibility to everybody, but like, I hadn't made any mistakes. So I'm calling like the EP, and I'm like, get an article ready, send a truck down here. This is a big deal. They're going to fire. I think they fired their GM. Well, how do you know? Is it confirmed? I said, I'm confirming it. I'm the source. If we're wrong, I'm the one that's wrong. I go, we don't need to push it out right now. We just need to get it ready. And as soon as I get word, or as soon as I'm pretty sure, I'll let you know. Okay. So Rod Allen was still at the booth at the time. So people are more media members are starting to come in this locker room, and it's still not open, and nobody knows why. And I'm starting to tell this story. I'm like, guys, I think Dombrowski just got tossed, because I saw him go in, saw his kid come out with the bags, went straight to the exit. Like, and so people are like, really? So finally, I'm like ready to like, I called again, and I'm like, guys, push it. Like, it's still not open. It's been over an hour. Like, something's happening here. Right as I said that, and they're like, well, we can't do it until it's confirmed. I'm like, this is what pissed me off. It's like, trust me, I'm not putting my whole life on the line here for me to be wrong. Okay? Like, that was the thing that really shook me about that more than anything. But then Rod Allen showed me his phone. He got an email. And it said, company, all Tigers employees, like Dave Dombrowski, has been relieved of his duties. And I was like, damn, I just watched that happen. And like, if I would have had the wherewithal of like shooting him walking, just because B-roll, right? Like, just for the sake of having B-roll of Dave Dombrowski walking into the clubhouse, walking out of the club, I mean, just to have it, you know? Should have done it. Would have had gold video.
So off guard, though.
I've seen Dave Dombrowski 100 times walking in and out of that thing, and it never was weird until this time. And that's where that intuition, where it's like, something crazy is going to happen here. Something weird's going to happen here. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, if something's just off and it's away from, because sports people in general are people of ritual and routine. And so when the routine gets off, that's when crazy shit happens. And that's when, like, you know, something's going on, something's wrong, something's different. So that story was wild to me. And I just remember, like, the rest of the day, there we were, like, you know, breaking it down and talking about it. And
did you guys end up breaking it?
I forget. I mean, I think
because you could have had it. You could have gone to Rogue and just tweeted it.
I should.
You would have been fired.
You know,
if
the
you
thing
were
is
wrong,
like
though.
I don't even know how to search tweets. This is how bad I am at like the Twitter, like going back in time. I'm sure if you went back to that day and you looked at my tweets from that day, they might show us what I was thinking at that time.
It was a surprise because it was
so out of left field.
It was kind of out of left field. There was a thought that he might be let go at the end of the year. Probably safe, but he had just run the trade deadline, trading Price for Norris and Boyd, and I mean it's just the idea that he would be run out. What was that, like 2 days after the trade deadline?
Right.
Like he had just been allowed to make these consequential
Well,
moves.
and he was the guy that was like the architect of all these teams that like went far and like did well and like all the they didn't get over the hump and like win obviously at the highest level, but like his fingerprints were all over like what made those teams exciting, what made people love those teams, what made like the fan base go crazy and buy tickets. Like the Tigers have not seen that sustained success since he left.
Marlins won a title. Came here, had a team as a prohibitive favorite in the World Series twice, had the best of the teams that he ever had, blow an ALCS through no fault of Dave Dombrowski's in 2013. Leaves, goes to Boston, wins the title.
Yep.
Leaves, goes to Philadelphia, they're middling, almost overnight. They could win a title this year.
Yep.
They are a coin flip to make the World Series right now.
And the thing is like I still like if it's out there, it's out there. I haven't been privy to like the background information of why that really fell apart. Like there's a real secret reason.
I think
why.
Mike Ilitch was just mad that I gave you the payroll and we never won. I don't.
I think there's something more than that.
I'm not saying there's not.
That
was my understanding.
I think that's what they told everybody. I mean, like
I would have never fired that guy. I think you had the best, one of the 2 or 3 best, if not the best GM in the whole sport.
And he's proven it before and then since.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was like some
and
one-off.
during. I mean,
right?
it's
during.
It's hard to actually win.
100%.
If you're a GM and you have your team in the World Series twice as the favorite because the talent on the field that you put together is better than the one across from it, I think you kind of did your job as the GM.
Right.
The players at some point got to hit the ball.
Correct.
Like, I understand the whole book stuff with the top guy. Like, I get it. But if I put the best team on the field and they got to the World Series multiple times, not as a toss-up or as a slight favorite, they
wild
were
card run,
a substantial favorite in both of those World Series, and they had the best team in baseball, one of the best teams in baseball of that decade in 2013. At some point, you got to make pitches and swing and hit the ball.
Right.
And that's not on Dave Dombrowski. Your job as a GM is to put the best team on the field as many times as possible. He did that repeatedly. I love Dave Dombrowski, and I hope that he wins to spite everyone that said anything bad about him, because I think he got a bad rap here. And I get people bitching about, oh, yeah, anyone can win with a big payroll. Motherfucker, the guy took over the worst organization in baseball, one of the worst 5 in sports in 2003. And then Tony Paul will chime in and say, oh, technically it was December of 2003, like whatever. He almost overnight had them in 3 years, not even one Olympic cycle, in the World Series. That wasn't with money. They went into the World Series as prohibitive favorites and not on some flukish run. They were the best team in baseball most of the year. They had a bad September and squandered the division, but they were a 90-plus win team. Got into the World Series as monster favorites over St. Louis with a middle-of-the-pack payroll. They were like the 15th or 16th payroll that year. He didn't buy his way out of that.
Right.
That was stealing Placido Polanco, stealing Carlos Guillen, stealing in free agency Kenny Rogers. Pudge, it was a 4-year, $40 million deal. That was like a middle-class deal at the time. No one else wanted to sign him because of a lumbar spine issue. That wasn't buying his way out of shit. The Maglio Ordonez 5 for 75 deal or whatever it was crucified by the national media because of his bad knee. So, yeah, they had like the 16th payroll. So, miss me with that nonsense.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Well, and it's like I worked in Pittsburgh for 2 years, and I watched them make the first wild card appearance in like 25 years or something like that. And that's the famous Cueto blackout, PNC Park. God, what a night. Like, I always parallel Pittsburgh and Detroit because they're very similar, like cities, like blue-collar cities, kind of growing off these industries that are that died and had to be revived. Like, Pittsburgh reinvented itself as like a tech hub now. Detroit is reassembling itself kind of in the similar ways, like a tech hub, but also like still automotive. Anyways, their fan bases are so passionate. And so being there for that reminded me of like, wow, if the Lions ever got to a playoff game at home, it would be that night at PNC Park times a bajillion.
The tailgate all day or all morning.
All week. I mean, people would literally park out there all week.
I agree.
So it's like, that's the type of success that I hope for all of our teams. Like, quite honestly, like, I mean, Brad and I used to joke, Brad Galley, who used to work at Channel 7 with him, like, we used to always joke that our previous boss, Tom Lydon, would say, hey, let's cover a parade this year. He would say it every single year, starting in 2014. We covered no parades from 2014 until I left in 2021. But you know, I covered a lot of coaches, a lot of general managers getting hired and fired, though. The point is like, Detroit is such a special sports town. And I was so privileged and blessed to be able to work in my hometown, the teams I grew up watching, the universities. It's the number one sports town in the country because of our universities. Because that Boston is really good, Pittsburgh's really good, but they don't have Michigan and Michigan State.
No.
And that's why this sports market, we are so lucky to have all 4 sports teams and two colleges, with Michigan and Michigan State being good at basketball, women's basketball, hockey, football. Like, I mean, it never ends around here. It's such a cool sports town to be a part of and unique in that way. But it's like, they got to start winning, because we have as sports fans, we have stuck by them. And for the last 8 years, Justin, we have been talking about nothing but losing and not enough talent and bad hires. And here we go again, another rebuild. And it's like, we need to get paid off at some point, and I believe it's coming. And that's why it's like, I got to believe in Dan Campbell a little bit. I got to, even though you don't want to hear it, I got to believe in him, because that suffering has to end at some point. To your point, 60-some years, it's got to end. Same thing with the Red Wings. Like, I covered their last playoff series when they got swept. That was like my first year working here in 2014. They got swept by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I remember sitting at Joe Louis Arena for Game 4, and then they lost whatever it was. And I just remember being like, oh, well, you know, I'll cover another playoff game. I didn't cover another playoff game until that sham of a Pistons team went to played against the Bucks and got swept in 4. And I remember being at Little Caesars Arena and being like, this ain't happening. Blake's playing on a half a knee. And that was it. And then a college football playoff when Michigan State went and got smoked by Alabama. So it's like, in 8 years in this city, I covered 5 playoff games.
Maybe you were the problem.
Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was the problem. Time for me to get out of Dodge.
The other 3 teams, though, in this stretch have, I mean, the Tigers haven't won a title in my lifetime, but shortly before, like, they've all had those ebbs and flows. The Lions are just always bad. So I don't know why I have to believe something's coming for the Lions. The other 3, I agree with you. One thing I'll say, I like all 4 GMs, including the Lions GM. The least of the 4, just because I think we don't have as much to work with. Troy Weaver has basically done everything I was asking that organization to do for like the last 15 years. Since about 2008, when that other group was just cooked.
They start tomorrow, and I
can't believe it. But
I am locked in on the Pistons.
Big picture, I am. I think next year is when they pop. And
I just want to see growth, progress, no injuries.
I think we will.
Like this is just I want to watch them grow. And I say that about the Red Wings, but the thing about hockey is like, hockey is so tough to follow from because there's no college. These guys don't play. Like, you didn't see Soderblom in Michigan.
You have no relationship with them.
You have no relationship with these new guys. So you're like, oh, cool, he's a 6'8" guy. He can dangle it a little bit, and people bounce off him. He's fun to watch. Okay, I can get behind him. It's like, where's he from? What's his first name? Like Elmer or Elder? I don't even know. Like, my point is like, no Jaden Ivey, though. But watching that guy at Purdue for a long time. Big fan of his game. Hate that he lost to St. Joe's or St. Peter's, though, whoever, popped them in the NCAA tournament.
Which is
it's
largely his fault.
But it's like, he's a guy that's like, with Cade and him in that backcourt, it's like, ooh.
He was so bad in that St. Peter's.
God,
he was like 2 for 14.
But my point is like, I have like a predetermined relationship of watching this athlete play his game. And I'm excited to watch him grow for my team now. And it's the same thing with like, there's Michigan fans out there who say that about Aiden Hutchinson. I don't particularly see that coming to fruition, but that's not a Michigan jab. It's just an Aiden Hutchinson jab.
I still like Aiden. I'll go down with the ship.
You go down with that ship.
I like him, and I'm not one to be.
But no, I think, and this is always such a hot topic debate on Sports Talk Radio, but like, God, I'm so high on the Pistons and the Red Wings in the next couple of years.
I'm with you.
And like, sure, the Tigers will come around. I really like Spencer Torkelson. Huge fan of Casey Mize and like that young pitching. Tarek Skubal, what a great guy, great kid. Head on his shoulders. Like those young guys in that organization are fine. I don't think there's any rotten eggs there. And it's the same thing with like if the Lions can ever just get more talent, more young talent, they're going to be fine. But you're right. GMs are really good in this town right now. Who cares about the coaches? I love Dwayne Casey though, man.
Oh, he's good for
he's
now.
my dude.
He's not going to be there when they. He's a transition.
But he's also kind of getting to the point where his he's just getting older.
No, I think he's going to walk away on his own. I think their relationship with the organization and him, I think they all kind of know what they're doing.
Sure.
Like I think Dwayne Casey, I think they've been transparent with him. I don't know this. This is my speculation. I think they've been transparent with him about like, hey, here's what we want you to do. We want you to teach these young guys how to play. I think he's probably told them, yeah, I don't want to do this 8 more years.
Right.
That's the vibe I get. They're cohesive. It just feels like everybody's on the same page, which was not the case before.
Here's the thing. It goes back to my whole thing about professional athletes. There is a certain point in time, especially with like a young team. It's not football, right? This is basketball. You've got 5 players playing, and the average age of the Detroit Pistons starting tomorrow night is like 12. They're babies. They're babies out there. Cade Cunningham is barely 19, barely 20 years old. Jaden Ivey, like 17, going to prom next week. Like, my point is these guys are all under 21 years of age, and they do need help. They do need fundamentals. They do need coaching because basketball is a different game than football. Like, yeah, you put your elbow here. But the problem is my JV coach was just some guy who taught math third hour. You know what I mean? Like I learned how to shoot a basketball from a guy who's like somebody's dad. Like not like a neighborhood dad.
Yeah.
Not like a coach in the NBA. So the point is I'm trying to make is like these guys, and Jaden Ivey, perfect example. He didn't play 4 years at Purdue. Played a couple of years. Jalen Duren played half a season for Penny Hardaway. You think he learned anything from Penny Hardaway?
Penny Hardaway doesn't coach.
Like that, exactly.
Yeah.
So my point is like those guys need the coaching and the tutelage at the point of the careers that they're at. Cade Cunningham, raw talent, really good. Got to learn to play the IQ game. Got to learn to see the game through and that's where the coaching comes into play in the NBA, maybe more in a couple other sports. I mean, all sports have their different sects where the coaching really matters. But the NBA is specifically because all these guys, they have such little coaching from different people along the way. They got an AAU coach, and they got the high school coach, then they got the college coach or the Ignite coach or whatever, and then they got all these private trainers. And it's like you finally get to like an NBA coaching staff, and you finally say, oh, I've been dribbling wrong my whole life. Wow, that's interesting. No one told me that I could use both hands. I thought I could only dribble with my right hand.
They're in good shape. That organization,
really good shape.
They're stocked with assets. They're stocked with money pretty soon. I mean, they already have some now, but like very soon, as soon as next year. Last thing I'll say about them before we move on to our speed round, I tweeted this at the time. I have I would say more I'm friendly with than I'm friends with. I'm very friendly with a very recently retired NBA scout, most recently with Memphis, and had a couple years with a different franchise prior. He had Jalen Duren as, and I'd have to look up at my tweet, as either the 3rd or 4th prospect in the entire draft. Easy. And that's why I posted my little Darko State News big board or whatever, and it was transparent. I was like, I just took what my buddy said. I had my own opinions about the top 3 and that, but beyond the top 3, I just stole my friend's list. And he thinks Duren is, he's not going to be Giannis, but he thinks he's a poor man's, and this is a compliment, Dwight Howard, because people forget how good we make fun of him. Dwight Howard,
later part of his career,
he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
He was the best center in the league for 8 years.
Yeah.
He was 24 and 12 every year for half a decade. So
Jalen Duren was at the top. He was the top 3 coming out of that year's high school class.
Yeah, he was number 1 on some lists and up and down.
Lists.
And he's so even if he is 18 and 10, 2 blocks. I don't mean next year, but I mean year 3. 18 and 10, 2.5 blocks a game. That's one of the best
If
six
Isaiah
centers in the league.
Stewart, it's 6'8". If Isaiah Stewart 6'8" can have how many doubles did he have last year?
I love Stewart.
Double-digit doubles.
The one that
like,
got away from Tom is one of the many. He did. I thought he was coming too. He goes to Washington. Christ.
but like if Duran can just have like 10 to 15 doubles this year,
Yeah.
for a rookie, if Isaiah Stewart could do that, Duran should be able to do that with ease.
Yeah, Duran's a teenager, and he's going to get. Didn't they just have an injury to their front court? Who
Yeah, Marvin Bagley went down.
Yeah. Was it? I thought they had. I knew Bagley went down, but I thought they lost somebody else too. Like one of their like super important guys. Maybe I'm wrong. I know Bagley's going to open up more time for Duran.
Yep.
Him going down. I think he was going to play anyway. But for the record, at least one NBA scout thought Duran was like a top 4 player in the whole draft,
I would agree with that.
and I really liked him.
His upside is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's why Troy Weaver's the genius that he is, that he had the wherewithal to be like, dude, I will do whatever I need to do. Oh, wait, nothing? Here, have nothing.
And you got to
Have nothing.
I like having the guy with the pedigree of superstar, 5-star, top 5 recruit who went to a just zero of a coach. Because it's like we have no idea what this guy can do.
None.
Dwayne Casey, even if you don't love him, he's a competent, smart basketball
Very
coach.
smart IQ.
Yeah, like he
Very.
knows ball.
Yeah.
So what I mean, and I actually like Dwayne Casey, but even if you don't, like, he's a lot smarter than Penny Hardaway. He's a much better basketball coach than Penny Hardaway.
100%.
So he's going to get some far superior coaching.
Yes.
And it's not like he was bad last year.
Right.
Like he was pretty good, but I'm saying I don't think we know the half of how good that kid is. I'm
His upside,
really high on
He's
him.
one of those guys that you look at with upside and you go, he's got it.
They stole that motherfucker. They had to pay Kemba Walker like $8.5 million to go fly a kite, and then traded like another like late pick or something. I mean, they
His
stole,
second rounder.
Guy could be a franchise center. This is not shit we saw them do the last
Never.
couple years of Dumars.
No.
I mean, well, the Rashid trade, I wouldn't say ever, but I mean, we had a 20-year gap almost, like an 18-year gap of seeing this type of
Troy
shit.
Weaver is he and Steve Eiserman are easily the top 2 GMs that we have so far.
Oh, yeah. But here's what I say. Even if Weaver doesn't work out, it's hard to win in these leagues. I understand that. Everything he's doing
Everything
makes
he's
sense.
done. Those books, are they still paying Josh Smith? I use that joke a lot because it's like they were paying
wasn't
him.
that far off.
I know. They were paying him for like another 8 years. I remember Stan Van Gundy. I sat down with him the first week he got the job. And I sat him down and I was like, Stan, what do you need to do to turn this into a winner? And he kind of looked at me like, a lot. Like, he even inherited a dumpster fire and he threw more gas on the dumpster fire with the moves that he made, trading away all those picks and getting all this washed up talent. We don't need to go down the rabbit hole. Speed round. Getting tired. My goodness.
Yeah. Well, this you'll go fast. Don't give me the Justin Rogers version. The speed round was longer than the body of the show.
No.
Yeah, it really was. Justin Rogers and I had a 2-hour speed round. So let's keep it 60 seconds or less for all of them. We'll go fast. This was a debate on Twitter today that I started. Charles Rogers versus Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
Okay, that's it. All right, fair.
I mean,
I agree.
As far as like his impact at Michigan State for the time.
Who's the better player?
Kenneth Walker.
I agree. And I love Charles. I never thought I'd say that because I was
huge. I remember that 1 foot grab he had against Notre Dame in the back of the end zone. I'll never forget that play, and I cheered my ass off. But he didn't impact. Now that I have actually seen those games, like as an adult, and like I can make different determinations, 1,100 plus yards after contact is way more impressive than a 1 foot catch and bounce.
Yeah, the wins above replacement on Kenneth Walker was like 5.
Oh, yeah.
He was worth like 5 wins.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. You can change the outcome of one game in your lifetime. Just one game, not a series, not a season. Flip the game, the outcome of one individual game. What do you flip?
Oh, you should have given me time to think about
It's not that you're supposed to be on your feet.
The outcome of a game.
I mean, while you're thinking,
Give me yours.
Well, I'm getting there. I've always said I want to say 2013 Game 2 ALCS, not only because I was there and I was in the shower like Vesper after witnessing a murder in the stairwell, in the shower of my Boston hotel room, but I always, you don't know, even if they go up 2-0, I think they probably win that series and then probably win the World Series, but it's tough to go against an outcome of a game that would literally win you a championship if you flipped it. So my answer is 2009 Michigan State in Detroit. They had the hardest road to-ho of
Yeah.
any team. 3 straight 1 seeds, defending
Yeah.
champion 3-seed Kansas, a USC team that had DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic.
Mhm.
They had 4 NBA players on them in the second game. That was the objective in terms of seeding, the hardest path any team's ever played. And they play a super team in UNC. The game was not close, but that's not the question. If I could just flip the outcome,
I think
winning in Detroit.
Yeah, no,
Is that what I have a second?
That's a good one. I'm not going to go with that one. I'm going to go with an NCAA tournament game, though.
Okay.
I think it's the Final Four game against Butler.
That would be in my top 3.
If they win that game, I think they win a title.
Because Duke,
That was the worst Duke team we've seen in a really long time.
I can't believe they even made it that far.
Gordon Hayward,
Well,
Butler, like the Cinderella story. Michigan State made the Cinderella story. Like they made Butler who Butler was at that time. Like because of Michigan State.
We were the Cinderella. We just had too cool of a name to wear the crown or to a slipper
true.
or whatever.
We're
the one that lost our best player.
Great question.
We lost our best player, the Big Ten Player of the Year, by the way. So, like, not just our best player, the best player in the conference, like, ranked, won the award, and still made it there.
Yeah.
And basically had to get screwed. If you ever see Tom Izzo out and about, I've told this story. Go up to him and just maybe say hello first, but after hello, just say, "Hey, was Draymond fouled against Butler?" I've done it twice. He is so funny. He'll just be like, "Hey, yeah, hell yeah, of course he was." Like he's so like he knows.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. Hayward himself was asked about it in the post-game press conference after the game, and had kind of a sheepish laugh. There's no controversy about was Peyton Thorne's shin down or not.
Yeah.
Hayward knows he fouled him, and you have a 70% free throw shooter who only needs to split the pair to get you in overtime. So it's like, even if you're like, you don't know he'd make both. Okay, go 1 for 2, see an OT.
Yeah.
I mean, they were fucked. So unless you're telling me a 70% shooter is probably going to miss both, I think it's possible.
But
statistically, the chances of 70%
it's just like,
shooter
but you
going
don't ever know because like then it comes okay.
But they deserve the chance.
If it's a tip off and then there's a rebound, like there's a million different things.
That was the worst non-call I've ever seen.
It was bad.
I'm sorry, but like it wasn't blocked. So unless you think Draymond is so bad at basketball that he shot the ball 2 feet,
right,
like on a 20-foot turnaround,
right.
like.
It's just the refs. Sometimes they just want to swallow the whistle late in games, and they don't want to make the. I mean,
Good
that's
answer.
Anyways, that's my.
Sorry, I'm
That's
hogging you around. Best
good
Michigan
one.
State jersey. Throw them up some. You can vote off the board. They've had other versions. This has been. I get a different answer every time. We've run this back a couple times.
First of all, number 1, burn them.
Thank God. The kids love those.
I know the kids can love them all they want. Burn them.
They suck. I'm with you.
The first iteration of the Pro Combats featuring one Kirk Cousins. I do believe I have that rendition of that jersey at my house somewhere. It's not my favorite because I didn't like the bronzy thing to it. I did like the one right below it, number 5. But my favorite jersey is the all whites.
The all whites.
Now I want all whites with black. That's what I want.
Where's the black coming in?
Where the green is.
Oh, okay,
and I want
see.
the green to be stenciled on the outside. So it almost
I
looks
see.
like it's all
I see what
black.
you're saying. I know what
Like
you're saying.
I want the numbers in black with a green like liner. So like up close, you obviously see it's green.
That number 5, man. That Pro Combat.
And you know what else I want to see? I want to see. Remember those Boise State helmets with the giant horse on one side?
Yep.
I want a Michigan State Spartan head that big on one side.
That'd be sick. Like the gruff head or the helmet. Like
Either one.
Yeah.
Either one. But like take that on a Pro Combat and make that sucker real big on one side of it, and then have like either black jerseys or white jerseys with black. I mean, they have not yet come up with like the next great Pro Combat, and I wonder if that's like a Nike thing. I wonder if that's like just like, well, we got these stupid neon ones. You can have those for a while. like, are we bored? Are we lazy? Like, I've got time.
Got to get on
Nike,
that.
I've got time. If you want to bring me out for a consultation, like, I mean, we could figure something out here.
Mark Hollis was so good with them. Like he was
good
on.
friend.
Yeah.
Good friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. And Mark and I talk a lot about like, you know, that type of stuff because I remember those when those jerseys, the original ones, like the ones that they came out with, all of the teams have them now. It was like uniform across all sports.
Yeah.
The script was only for the basketball at the time when they first came out. This was in like what, 2012, something like that. I mean, that's when Mark came out with like the state, like women's basketball, volleyball, soccer, like all of them were going to be like with this Michigan State Spartans, and it's going to be this block. People hated him at first, and I'm like, Mark, I think you're on to something here, because Michigan State was different colors green, different colors script. The women's basketball jerseys were totally different than the men's. Like, there was no uniformity across all sports, and Mark was the one that came up with the idea, hey, we should probably look the same for all Spartans. Ding! Like, wow.
Yeah, good call.
Like, genius.
We did
Simple.
We did a lot of Michigan talk earlier. This will be a brief pass on this one. Michigan athlete that you just begrudgingly love. You can't help but love. Can't help but respect. Secretly love, however you want to phrase it. I always put Trey Burke on there. I loved Chris Webber's game. I was too young.
You know who I still to this day really enjoy is Isaiah Livers.
Yeah, I mean,
I covered
cheating a little bit because he's a Piston, but all right.
Well, I covered Isaiah Livers when he won Mr. Basketball from Grand Rapids, and so then he went to Michigan. So I covered him during his time at Michigan. So I've seen him. I was like, I don't want to say I was friendly with him. I ran into him at a restaurant 6 months ago.
Heard he's a great guy. Everybody loves
him.
Dude,
and you want to know who else I love? John Beilein.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Begrudgingly.
No begrudging. Like I would invite John Beilein to I would have him be like the godfather of my.
We've always liked him though. This Michigan State fan base does not have any disdain for that guy. We've always they hate Izzo. We actually like John Beilein. And we hate Juwan.
Juwan's kind of, but he's the Fab Five guy. Like, Beilein came there and he was just like, he was caught off guard with how arrogant that fan base was. I don't think, because that's not who he is, right? You have to be a little bit of a jerk to be a coach at Michigan. I mean, look at their coaches across all sports. There's a common theme here. They're not really that nice of people. Like John Beilein would give you his shirt off his back, and you could be you could be Thad Matta. Like, he would give you his shirt off. That is John Beilein. You cannot replace how good of a person he was. And I can't say the same thing about a lot of the other coaches at that program or at that. And look, there's bad coaches at every place, right? Don't make this only Michigan, right? But that's the type of personality that John Beilein had. He was just head and shoulders a better man than anybody I've ever met in Michigan. He didn't fit in there because of that. Hell of a coach.
Yeah.
I was never mad when Michigan made all those runs. I was happy for them. And I was like, whoa, what's going on with me? It was because of John Beilein.
I wasn't happy.
John Beilein's the best.
I love John Beilein. It's a great. No one's ever answered that. We've done it before. It's a great answer.
So it's definitely the basketball side, because the football players, there's nobody I really particularly cared for, especially when I was a kid. And then hockey, no, basketball.
Second to last one, the penultimate. Worst athlete interaction you've had. I mean, you don't have to get into a 6-minute story. It's the speed round, but someone that I threw Delman Young up there because he has been mentioned by 2 different reporters in the speed round as the worst guy they ever covered, just in terms of their interactions. Has there been someone that you were just, not even a specific story, but just a guy that was just a pain in the ass?
Jason Varitek comes to mind.
Jason Varitek? the captain?
The captain, yeah. He was really begrudgingly rude to me once, long time ago. I don't remember why I was even interviewing Jason Varitek, but I remember telling all my frat buddies, yeah, Jason Varitek's a jerk, and everyone for a long time after, yeah, remember Jason Varitek? Screw that guy. No, bad media experience.
Or just a guy that was always a jerk. I mean,
Matt Patricia. I mean, we already.
But he's not an athlete. The guy can barely walk.
No, moo.
I mean, Veritek's a valid answer. You can roll with that.
Can I flip it on you real quick? Because
Yeah.
I know people in this area are gonna go crazy for this. But best media interaction with a superstar, Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is a great dude, and I know Detroit fans hate him and will. For Sidney Crybaby and all the different. Sidney Crosby is awesome. And we can save that story for another day because it's kind of long. But he was always gracious, and he didn't need to be, and he was always awesome. So
yeah,
Crosby.
Great answer. Not popular in this town.
No,
you're a great answer.
No.
Finish here. Best part about East Lansing.
Oh man, so many good things.
I know. It's
you
the
know,
heaven on earth.
I mean, honestly, like there was a, and this is kind of like so cheesy and sappy, but like right at the corner of where Brody is, where that gas station, not gas station, what are those quick marts? No,
Quality Dairies?
Quality Dairy.
They're not even there anymore.
There's a Quality Dairy on the corner where Brody is.
Oh, that's still there?
I think it's still there.
Okay,
Unless
the Grand River one's by.
Yeah, but there's like there's like a little. It's right where the soccer field is. So it's by what's the Kellogg Center. So the Kellogg Center, that's where you like walk through. So there's a little like bend on the corner. So if you're walking towards like Harrison, towards like Grand River, and then you can turn, and that's like the campus cutout right there. There's a little corner bend there, and there's like a little bit of where the Red Cedar River runs, and there's a little waterfall. And I'm talking about like it's like goes over like a rock.
Yeah,
it's like it's not even.
It's a Michigan waterfall.
It's not even like a real waterfall.
In Michigan, that's
like,
a waterfall.
I just remember my freshman year because tough times, right? You're a freshman in college, you're lost. I remember I would walk down there sometimes, and I would go to the Quality Dairy, get something to drink or whatever, and I would sit there at that corner little bend, and I would just kind of listen to the water. I don't know that and feeding the ducks over by Wells Hall.
There's nothing corny about what you said.
That's
why Michigan State and that
campus is and
majestic.
then like there's those times when I remember riding a bike or walking on campus or like just the fall and then the winter and then in the summertime, like it just that's what Michigan is like. Like people always ask me like, what are you doing for summer plans? I'm like, not going anywhere, maybe up north, but I'm not leaving the state. Why would I leave this state in the summertime? It is the most beautiful place in the world in the summertime. Give me Michigan summers over anywhere else all day long. I'll go to Florida in the winter, or I'll go to Disney World in the spring, or I'll go to Europe in the fall, like whatever. But summertime in Michigan, you will have to drag me out of here to make me leave the state. I won't do it.
I mean, I'm with you on everything you said. I'll just say for East Lansing, and I lived up there for 2 summers and loved it. But early fall in East Lansing, there's no place on the planet I'd rather be.
No.
I love everything about it. I remember even as a student, friends making fun of me, like, because I would just go on walks on campus, and they'd like, what are you doing? Like, even at night, like, just on a Friday night, like, I'm just going for a walk. Like, to do what? I just go for a walk. I loved it.
I remember the last time I went, it was before my wife and I got married. We went to a football game. I don't know if we went to the game. We went and, like, tailgated and stuff, and I just remember walking, like, underneath like the clock and like down through campus and took pictures. And I mean, it's just awesome. It's just an awesome campus. I mean, there's something about it. Like it's not like it is a city now. My God, I don't even recognize
the downtown,
like the downtown area, but like the campus
campus
itself, it's just like, man, it's the museum area. Like I remember like the library. I mean,
I'm with you. I'll start crying with you.
It's just.
Why would anyone go anywhere else? I mean, if you see that campus, it's like.
I mean, it is. And the thing is like, I'm not like, so to give you guys some more perspective, like I covered lived in Morgantown and I covered WVU athletics. That campus is, first of all, it's like 3 different campuses and it's a dump. It's like built on the side of a hill. It literally sucks. There's nothing redeeming about that campus. Yeah, there's some nice areas, but like by and large, like there's 3 spots and you're like, oh wow, this is a nice campus. And everywhere else is like, where am I? Same thing with Ann Arbor. Like I like Ann Arbor as a town, as a city. I like to go shopping down on like Main Street and State Street and all those different things. But as far as like a college campus, like no, it sucks. It's a terrible campus. And it's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is in the middle of downtown Pittsburgh in Oakland. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like I've been to the Pete. That's where they play their basketball games. And like they play at Heinz Field. So there's no real like community and like it just sucks. So it's like of the places that I've worked and covered college athletics, nothing compares to East Lansing. And it's not because because I went there. It's literally because these campuses don't hold a candle. Now I'd love to get down to some SEC schools. I walked around Knoxville a little bit when we drove to Florida last time. And I was like, wow, I'd like to actually check this place out a little bit more because Knoxville looks like a badass like college town.
Have you been to Chapel Hill?
I've not been to Chapel Hill. I'd like to go to Duke.
You know, that's my other Duke sucks. Duke has beautiful like Gothic structured. buildings.
Notre Dame's really nice too. I do like Notre Dame's campus a lot too.
Speaking of heaven on earth, but they have the problem with Notre Dame is they have the worst town. Like one of the worst towns. So it's like East Lansing, you have a great like downtown right there.
Right.
Yeah, not the case, but Duke sucks. Duke has some nice Gothic structure.
But I definitely want to get to a SEC game at some point. Like, I mean, Between the Hedges would be really cool.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You know, I don't want to go to Alabama. I feel like
Everyone loves Ole
but,
Miss.
like,
I get from
yeah, hottie toddies, baby.
Yeah, everyone likes that spot.
But I really wish I would. I did spend some time in Seattle, so I did see Husky Stadium. I didn't go to a game there. It was in the summertime when I was there, but I saw how beautiful that was. I think Autzen would be awesome to go to.
I've been there.
Did you go to the Michigan State game there? That would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we were in it, and then it got kind of snowed by Mariota.
Yeah. Well,
they were loud.
They got him back next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that as I get older, and like certainly when I have kids and like introducing them into Michigan State athletics, I'll probably take a little more.
That game the Oregon game that you're talking about, the Vernon Adams Oregon win, that night game, the kickoff that year. I've always said that was in my lifetime the best day in Michigan State's campus history in terms of everyone was so excited. The team was good. We thought they were going to be good. They ended up being good. It's just that was the best tailgating day.
That's what we have to hope that Mel Tucker brings back.
Yeah.
Where there's like, hey, we've got a top 10 week 1, week 2 matchup in our house.
Friday night.
Yeah. Like
that was the best day in that campus's history in my life.
I remember working that day. I remember interviewing some Oregon fans and like there was Michigan State fans grilling up duck wings.
Yeah.
I added that to my little news bit or whatever.
It was a beautiful day.
It was
the weather
gorgeous
was perfect.
Day. Yeah, it was beautiful. And when they striped the stadium out,
it was so loud. I have pictures from that. Everyone's fucking happy. It was not like the Michigan game last year where
everyone's on pins and needles the whole time.
Everyone was happy. It was just a happy day. And so anyway, we'll finish there. I kept you too long and we started late. So Ben's going to get to work and probably be up till 3 fixing the side camera. So if everyone's wondering why isn't it panning, I don't know.
You don't need a close-up of this. I'm telling you. This is as close as you need.
We'll get it
close as you need.
We'll get it right for you. This has been like the continued soft reopening of the studio. We're still working out the bugs.
Well, before you say anything else, man, this is unbelievable. Like this setup you've got in here, this whole thing it's awesome. I'm so like happy to be a part of it, and anytime you need an extra guy for anything, I will come back easily.
You are no one's extra guy.
This is so much fun, and I think just looking around at like how much you truly love Michigan State, it's like it's real, man. You don't do this. You don't do all of what you did in here if you don't love it. And so I'm glad that you've got a lot of success with the show, and it continues to grow. And hopefully, I hope you build that as best I can with this episode and many more in the future.
I appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime, and you'll see us with our full feathers next time. We'll be peacocking for you a little bit. But I certainly do love Michigan State, and I love Michigan State alums because we just crank out Ryan Field, yourself, Tony Paul. It's a conveyor belt of good media people.
Dude.
That's what we do.
You got to get Jamel.
Yeah.
You got to get Jamel on.
Yeah, Jamel hates me, though, so I don't think that way. But she doesn't like me. But I would have Jamel, though. I always tell people I would have had Bin Laden on 9/12. To me, it's not about liking. I happen to do like virtually all my guests I've liked. I'd have to think about it. I can't think of any that I disliked. But I would have someone in I disliked. And I've invited people I disliked, but that's how. Braylon Edwards has an open invitation. I will put him in a blender in front of thousands. He wants no part of that because it's a bad match for him. I wouldn't play pickup football with him.
Did you see that Fox Sports video that with Braylon and like that new reporter that they have for Fox Sports, and how Braylon Edwards, and I joke you not, Braylon Edwards revolutionized the forward pass in the Big Ten Conference.
I must have missed that, John. He was a hell of a receiver.
Jamal Spencer tweeted it out today saying this is.
Oh, so this is like a recent thing?
Like last week at homecoming, or when was Michigan's homecoming? Last week or 2 weeks ago? All I know is that Braylon walked and talked with this dweeb from Fox Sports, and was this guy was basically saying nobody has ever revolutionized football in the Big Ten quite like Braylon Edwards did. And it's try again.
Well, here's where I tread carefully, though.
Again.
He is one of the best receivers I've ever seen in the Big Ten. So
but Charles Rogers came before Braylon Edwards.
No, I disagree with the revolutionizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't Braylon's so good. And
Braylon and I are we're cordial. We're friends. And I would sit there and I would say I've given him enough juice over the years on my show in passing as friends. You know what I mean? I've given him, and I've told him when he's right and I've told him when he's wrong. But there's no doubt that when he was in his prime at Michigan, he was unstoppable and unbeatable. Like he just was.
He was in a lab, like tall,
Oh,
sticky hands,
athletic
like
as
jump.
can be. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget that triple overtime.
Yeah.
God bless. I don't want to get me
04.
going. It's too late. It's too late. For
That was the last like really good team they had
Yeah.
before last year. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
say they weren't good last year.
No,
last year. Yeah, but there was a big gap. I mean, I guess 06. I mean, a 3-point loss to be in the national title game. So that was one of their last really good teams. But yeah, his like, people will shit on him for being a bust. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like even that's kind of overstated. Like he had like a pretty solid like 7 year. I mean, he did less than you would want, but he's with Cleveland. Like,
Right.
and it's like, I just, to me, I don't even talk about his football career. It's the analyst stuff. The guy's insane. Like he's nuts. Where he comes up with this stuff, I don't know. You could do like an hour on that, but he's welcome anytime because I'd love to have that show. But
Oh yeah,
I digress. Great to have you.
digress.
You're welcome anytime.
I'll be back for sure.
We're gonna have the other two working, so you're gonna you gotta get your makeup done or whatever because you're gonna be in close-up 4K. This was Spiro Avenue Show. We got a lot coming the next 11 days. There's a lot to do between now and kickoff. We'll see what happens, but I'm not bending down to anything. I think we're in the same boat. Let's play the game. I'm looking forward to it. Spiro Avenue Show. Justin Spiro. We'll see you soon.
Peace.